Uh, Good, thank you. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment being held electronically via Zoom on September 28, 2022 at 7:30 PM. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the sunshine notice of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Such notice has been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and by transmitting a copy of the notice to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the clerk of Princeton on September 23rd, 2022, and has been posted to the municipal website, www.princeton.gov/meetings. Pursuant to the extension of the ongoing state of emergency by Executive Order 292 in accordance with the Emergency Remote Public Meeting Protocol for local public bodies to conduct a public meeting without any physical attendance by members of the public, notice that during this extension of the state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, and was filed with the clerk of Princeton on the 24th day of April, 2020. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website and ought to be maintained throughout the year and by transmitting a copy of same to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, Comcast Media, and by filing a copy thereof with the clerk of Princeton. Notices have been placed on all window doors of the municipal complex. Okay. We have to start with 3 minutes to review. All 3 were in the packet. The first was December 9th, 2020, a while ago.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I just have to do the roll call.
excuse me?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, well, I was going in the order of the agenda.
I know, but
Okay, go ahead, Claudia.
Okay, Ms. Chen,
here.
Ms. Coulson,
Here.
Mr. Savage,
Here.
Mr. Floyd,
Here.
Mr. Shriver,
Here.
Mr. Stein,
I'm here.
Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Here. Okay, back to the agenda. We have 3 minutes to approve. The first is December 9th, 2020. It was in your packet. Has everybody had a copy, a chance to review it? And if so, if someone would like to make a motion or a correction?
I'll move approval.
Second, anyone?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Claudia?
Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes,
Savage,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein, George,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen, Chairman
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the second is December 16th, 2020. Again, comments and or a motion?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Claudia?
Coulson,
yes,
Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay, our last is January 6, 2021. Again, comments or a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Jen,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen, no, I'm sorry, Ms. Coulson,
yes,
Davidge,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes. Okay, resolutions. Our first one is 144 Byard Lane, block 3.02, lot 34 in the R1 zone. The motions, the resolutions were in your packet. And again, comments and or a motion.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second.
okay, who was that? Was that Bernice or?
Yeah, so
No.
Bernice.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson. Steve,
Eve, you're muted.
yeah, yes, sorry.
Davidge.
Yes,
No,
Floyd,
no, wait. I don't think Jim was at that meeting.
Jim and I were not there.
That's what I thought, so you
that's what
can't
I was
vote.
trying to
Jim.
fix my notes. Okay.
Yep.
oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna,
yes,
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay, our next resolution is 21 Chambers Street, block 19.03, lot 56 in the CB zone.
Board members, I had a couple of corrections I wanted to suggest. On page 1, after the reference to the file number, in the name of the owner, the word 16 LLC appear. That should not be there. And on page 5, paragraph 11, third line, we want to insert the word uses, so it says allow for a variety of uses. And then third line from the bottom, also paragraph 11, after the words first floor physical therapy, we want to put the word office use. Other than that, I don't have any other revisions.
Okay. All right, again, comments or a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Chen,
Yes.
Coulson,
Yes,
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Donna,
yes,
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay, our next one is 15 to 17 Edwards Place, block 41.01, lots 62 and 63 in the R4 zone. Comments or motion, please? I'll move it. Thank you.
I'll second,
Chen,
Yes.
Coulson,
yes,
Floyd,
So I think Michael abstained on that.
Right.
okay. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna,
yes,
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay. And the last one is 27 Hillside Road, block 7202, lot 6 in the R6 zone. Comments or a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll second.
Chen,
Yes.
Colson,
yes,
Mr. Floyd,
Yes,
Stein,
Yes.
Donna,
yes,
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay. Applications. Our first one is 211 Winant Drive, 21 Greeley Road, lot 8401, lot 28 and 29 in the R2 zone. Karen, is everything in order?
yes, the noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction.
Okay. Mr. Bridger, would you like to read your memo, please?
I'll just
Yes,
swear
Your
you
Honor.
in. Mr. Bridge, I'll swear you in for the evening. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant Freeman Butler LLC is seeking an extension for their subdivision FAR and impervious coverage variances that were granted to construct a pool, patio, pool house and screening. The application was heard and approved on October 27, 2021, and it was memorialized on December 15, 2021, and published on December 24, 2021. Subdivision deed was required to be recorded within 180 days after the subdivision approval. However, delays by both the applicant and the staff resulted in that delay not being met. The applicant advises subdivision deed is nearly ready to be filed, and a set of compliance plans will be submitted soon. They are seeking a 12-month extension pursuant to section 17A213. However, they anticipate the work will progress much faster. And section 10B328 of the former township ordinance permits time extensions for a good cause if they're applied for within the year. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? Okay. All right. Would someone like to, we don't have to open this to the public, do we, Derek?
Well,
Now the
I-
applicant's attorney's here. I don't know if you want to.
yeah, and I guess since they did notice for this, you might as well, but perhaps the applicant's attorney wants to
Attorney,
say something
yes.
first, so.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Mr. Bridger had it right. There's still another 3 months, but I know it's a busy meeting schedule at the end of the year. And it's important if we do need the time to make the request now. We actually have, since filing for the extension, gotten in our engineering packet. We got some comments a few weeks ago, and those have been turned around back over to the town's consultant. So I really do expect this will happen almost immediately and likely before the 12 months actually times out. But in any event, we thought it was prudent to come in before that time happened, so we weren't rushed. And then, as Mr. Bridger said, technically, I know you guys don't often see as many subdivisions as the planning board does, but there's also a requirement that we get the deeds recorded. And while we prepared them, in April, the back and forth on the revisions with between the professionals has taken longer than anticipated. So we'll need some time to record those as well.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions? Okay, I will open this up. Well, Mr. Kennedy, I'm going to open it up to the public, if you like. I don't assume you want to add anything before I do.
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, I'll open this up. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak on this application? Claudia, has anyone raised their hands?
There are no hands.
Okay, all right. I'll close the public portion of the hearing, and again, Mr. Kennedy, we're going to vote on it in a moment if you'd like to add something.
No, thank you. We'll try to respect everyone's time tonight and hopefully get through all the applications. Thanks so much for considering.
Thank you. Okay, board members, any comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
I move we approve it.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Claudia?
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
yes,
Mr. Davich,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
yes,
Mrs. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, our next case is 694 Prospect Avenue, Block 5903, Lot 18 in the R5 zone. Karen, is everything in order?
Yes, the noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Steve, I'm going to recuse on this one.
Okay,
So I'll just mute myself and turn my video off.
okay. Okay,
Claudia,
I'm
could you
looking
bring over
for
Mr.,
the attorney. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
could you please bring over Dave Schmidt? I think he's got their attorney.
good evening, Mr. Schatzman. Okay, I guess we're still waiting for Dave Schmidt.
I am here. Dave Schmidt is here with
Yes.
There he is. Okay, Mr. Bridger, would you like to read your memo, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Oh,
Roycefield Real Estate LLC, care of Charles Taverner, is the owner of 694 Prospect Avenue, and Grosso Homes LLC, care of Richard Grosso, is the applicant. They are seeking a C1 variance to permit construction of a new home on a lot in exception to the required lot area, width and frontage. Property is located in the R5 zone in the former Princeton Township. Existing single-family use is permitted as of right. The subject lot requirements 21,780 square feet. The existing lot area is 19,714 square feet. Lot area and frontage or requirement is both 100 feet, and the lot width existing is 98.62, and the lot frontage is 95. Subject property was complying with the applicable bulk requirements. The existing house has been demolished, and the applicant is proposing to construct a new single-family home, approximately 4,300 square feet. The home will feature a finished basement with full bath. There's a kitchen, family room, study, dining room, 4 bedrooms and 4.5 baths, covered front porch, and a 2-car detached garage. The variances required are for lot area requirements 21,780, existing 19,714. The lot width requirement 100, the existing is 98.62, and the required lot frontage is 100, and the existing is 95. They have requested consideration under the C1 criteria. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
thank you. Any questions of Mr. Bridger? Okay, Mr. Schatzman, the
Yes,
floor
sir.
is yours.
Yeah, we have Mr. Schmidt will make the presentation.
You're a little low.
We'll have him sworn in by Miss Casey, please.
Yes, could you speak up though, Richard? We can't hear you very well. Mr. Schmidt?
Sorry, I have to get closer to the machine. We have Mr. Schmidt who will make our presentation. And if Miss Casey will swear him in, we'll just very quickly put his on the record what his qualifications are, and we'll proceed.
Mr. Schmidt, there you are. You would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is David Schmidt, SCHMID.
Excuse me, not to cut you off, but you've presented to this board numerous times and we've accepted you and we will do the same this evening.
Well, thank you. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
I'm going to share our screen real quick, I hope. Is everyone seeing on the screen the site plan that I prepared?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Schmidt, do you want that to be an exhibit?
I do not. I do have two exhibits. One is the variance plan. It's what is on the screen right now. It's prepared for lot 18, block 5903, dated July 18, 2022, revised August 22nd, 2022. This was prepared by my office. It's submitted to the planning board and also the members. I mean, we could make this an exhibit A1, but it is part of the record, so I don't see that necessary, but we can.
All right, what are we looking? We're looking at the site plan now, though?
That is correct. It's what was been submitted to the township.
Township and to the municipality.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Is everyone seeing the center of the lot and the proposed frame dwelling? I'm just making sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Everything that Derek went over as far as the variances, I agree with. We are asking for a lot area variance. We are short 2,066 square feet. As far as lot width, we're 1.4 feet short, and as far as lot frontage, we're 5 feet short in lot frontage. The proposed project is, the applicant is intending is a 2.5-story single family home. Currently there's an existing house that we're demolishing. As Eric said, it has been removed. The proposed new dwelling will have a 2-car detached garage. As far as stormwater management is required for this lot, as there is an increase of 2,135 square feet of impervious surface coverage. So we're intending to put a rain garden in the rear of the property behind the proposed frame garage to meet the township standards for the 2, 10, and 100-year stormwater runoff. So there'll be actually a decrease in runoff from this property once this is constructed. The engineering plans and the architectural plans, I believe, fit seamlessly into this property. We're putting the house pretty much in the same location where the existing house was. We're holding, the prevailing setbacks and pretty much holding the front of the house to the same location it was before. We are asking for a C1 hardship from section 10B 246 of the land use ordinance because we are short lot area, lot frontage, and lot width. Other than that, we will meet all the bulk zoning requirements as far as FAR and everything else that goes on with the zonings and setbacks. We are conforming, but we do need those 3 variances. The adjacent lots, I'm skewing into the vicinity map. We are the shaded property, which is 5903. The adjacent lot to the left, lot 19, it has an area of 0.43 acres. The lot on the other side, lot 17, per your tax map, has a lot area of 0.4 acres. So there's no way that we could get relief from either 17 or 19 by carving, doing a lot line adjusting and creating this lot to be conformance. While we make us conformance, we will make the adjacent lots even more non-conforming. So there's no way we can purchase area from lot 17 or 19 as they don't have available lands to suffice our lot area, lot frontage, and lot width. As far as the rear lots, which is lot 7 and lot 8, they're both areas of the property is 0.46. So they can't help relief on the side yards variances of property lines, but they can also help us with the lot area as they're also undersized. So, we take land from them. We're going to be intensifying the already non-use that's permitted, so we can't get property from them. So that's our reason why we can't obtain additional property, and that was based on the tax map sheet 59. The proposed dwelling is being located in the same location as the previous dwelling, thus no ecological or environmental change to the property. Impervious surface coverage will be increased to 25.62%, but far under the allowed 36%. The stormwater management proposed will eliminate any downstream impacts. Drainage patterns will remain similar to the existing drainage patterns that were currently in place. The existing property is currently served by public sewer, public water, gas, electric, and local telephone. The proposed dwelling will access the utilities in the same service lines wherever possible. So if you go back to the property, we have existing utilities, water, sewer. They're all going to get connected to the existing house. So there's no road cut or anything that needs to be done within the Prospect Road roadway. Residential garbage will be picked up by curbside on a weekly basis. That's pretty much my presentation of what I have. But we did get a letter from Derek Bridger for the owner of lot 702, which is lot 17 right here, which is the adjacent property to the right. He had some concerns with stormwater runoff, and he also had concerns with the trees that we're proposing. With the drainage patterns that exist, if you can follow, if you can see my mouse in the rear drainage patterns run all across the rear of the property, and then they divert down to lot 16. That drainage pattern is not being changed whatsoever. With the construction of the garage dwelling, I'm directing all this runoff down the driveway to the roadway. So the runoff from lot 18 to lot 17 is substantially less, because I'm now, as pretty much the township policy is, they do not like to have sheet flow going from one property to the next. And this is also the policy of Paul Girardi of the Mercer County Soil Conservation District. They always like to have the water directed down the properties. In that way, you're not affecting the adjacent properties' drainage flow or flooding its property. So we always try to get the water down and toward the Prospect Ave. All the water from our property and all the adjacent properties all end up at Prospect Ave. So we're not inundating Prospect Ave with additional water. All we're doing is we're redirecting the water that was adjacent to the existing house that used to go to lot 17. It's getting now directed from the proposed garageway all the way down to Prospect Ave. By doing that, I'm also minimizing the amount of drainage that was going to the rear of the property. As I said, all this water was going down, and then between lot 17, 18, the swale goes down and runs to Prospect Avenue. By putting the garage in the rear of the property, we are diverting water down to Prospect Ave, eliminating water that used to go to lot 17 and lot 16. Though it all ends up at Prospect at some point, it is, I believe, a better drainage aspect or drainage design, what we're proposing than what is currently existing. So, professional opinion, we're negating any adjacent property downstream impacts. We're actually minimizing them. The water gets to the roadway, which stays away from the property dwellings. So I believe with the rain garden, the drainage design I have, it's a better design that currently exists. The second point that he had in his review letter was we're proposing some planting of Norway spruces along this property line. His concern was that these trees are going to grow to a height of 30 feet and they're going to inundate the whole property, our property as well as his property. My recommendation is to go with the green giant arborvitae. If he's on board tonight, if he has any specific trees other than the Norway spruce, we're willing to, put whatever trees that he would like. The reason for wanting that we have so many trees to plant, I believe we have 15 trees to plant, is that there are a lot of white pines out there that are 24 and 36 inches in diameter, and per your ordinance, they require 2 to 3 trees replacement. So typically I've done a lot of these applications, and normally I have 2 or 3 trees, but we have 15 trees on such a small piece of property. So we went with the Norway spruce, but we'll be willing to put in whatever trees that he would like. They don't have to be a evergreen. Flowering trees work for us as well. So if he's on board tonight, if he's willing to give me recommendations of what trees he would like, we'll sure be willing to do that. Generally, trees that are 2.5 to 3 inch in caliber generally run the same price. So it doesn't really matter to my developer, Rick Grosso, of what trees he puts in. But we do need to meet the 15 tree requirement, as we're cutting down a lot of large pine trees, which I believe at 25 or 24 to 36 inches in diameter, they do get a little unsightly and they do need to go. The last comment he had was about radon levels, that they're very significantly high in this Mercer region. As a part of a building permit to get a CO, we do need to do radon testing. So before Ricky can sell, Rick Grosso, that is, to sell this house, we do need to do radon testing to make sure it passes. And if it doesn't pass, we need to put a system to mediate the radon in the basement. Other than that, I think this is a pretty straightforward application. I think, between, you guys don't see all the different changes that we made to get to this process, to this meeting. And I think this came out to be a pretty decent plan. And again, I'm willing to work with the adjacent property on what type of trees he would like me to plant.
And apropos of that, I asked a very big landscape architect from New York, and I explained to him what the problem was with the neighbor, to give buffering, and also to have so we don't take away his southern exposure. And he suggested Leyland cypress. He said that grows very quickly, provide a nice buffer, and wouldn't hinder what he complained about, the non-exposure because his house faces southerly. So that's another choice for him. If he's got something else or wants to have a landscape architect contact us, or he can contact us. Where, as Mr. Schmidt said, we're really open to whatever he wants us to do, and not harm his southern view that he wants to keep. And he complains, he says the right now the trees that we're taking down, he says, quote, they block most of the sunlight from the southern side of the house, especially in the winter, drop needles into our gutters, inhibit the growth of specimen trees we have in our backyard. So I explained that to my landscape architect, and he thinks Leyland cypress would be the answer, or the giant green arborvitae. So we'll be willing to work with him, whatever he wants. That's my comment.
So how do we, Derek, would you suggest that we have our engineer and the applicant talk about the revised planting plan?
No, I would say we ask for public comment,
Okay. All right,
go from there.
okay. Mr. Schatzman,
Yes.
any other
No.
comments or witnesses?
No, the architect is not here, but if you look at the plans, they fit in with the neighborhood. Mr. Bridger described what the house was. It's the normal house that fits in with the lot. There's no FAR or impervious coverage variances. It fits in with the neighborhood. The architect went through the neighborhood and he designed a house that fits in with the neighborhood. It's about the same size, and it fits in with the neighborhood, matches the neighborhood. It's not too small and not too large. And incidentally, the review letter from Mr. Charles Carney, my wife, he points out, my wife and I live next door. Generally speaking, we were happy with the proposed plans. We're particularly glad to see that the dangerously old white pines in the backyard will be removed, and had concerns which Mr. Schmidt covered in his testimony. Other than that, I have nothing else to say unless people have questions or the board has questions.
Board members, any questions of the applicants, the attorney, the witnesses?
I have one question. Do you have any idea what the square footage of the house that was torn down was?
Yeah, it's on the, it's in the, on the plans. I believe the difference is the difference of 600 square feet between the old house and the new house is more, about 600 square feet, right, Dave?
I didn't do the architectural, so I can't say. It was a one-story building, so
Yeah,
I'd say maybe a little bit more than that, but because we're 2 stories.
Yep.
The footprint's the same, I would say within the square footage, but you have the second floor, it's got to be a little bit more.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, it's a question. So I think it's great what you're proposing to move the water so it's not moving to the adjacent properties. Just had a question. So you have a proposed rain garden. Was that what spurred that to happen? Was that just because of the impervious you increased? Is that your
Well, that was an ordinance change that happened about a year ago.
right? Okay.
So I'm still holding. I'm a fan of dry wells, but I'm being what you're asking for is a rain garden. You
Okay.
reach the 400 square foot threshold, that kicks you into doing some type of stormwater management.
Okay.
We just did this, and I've been working well with Mr. Purcell's on different properties with the rain gardens, and they're only about a foot and a half deep. They got media mulch in there with vegetation, and we size up for the 2, the 10, and the 100. So it's what you guys are looking for the green infrastructure. So
Okay. I think that's good. So you're going to be running the downspout from the garage to the rain garden. Is that how you're going to be?
no, well, the front runoff always goes to the road. The rear runoff will be able to, because what you have difference between a dry well, which is underground, a rain garden is not. So I don't really have the pitch to get the driveway all the way to the rear with the coverage of the pipe. So the runoff that was always coming from the front of the house always goes to Prospect. So that drainage pattern hasn't changed, but the rear drainage patterns to the from the proposed frame garage and from the rear of the proposed dwelling, overland flow, or where they discharge in the rear of the property, will then get conveyed to, they'll just drain over natural flow to the rain garden. You gotta understand, you need about a 1.5 foot depth from your house down to get coverage to get these pipes where you want to go, and these rain gardens are only a 1.5 foot deep. So,
Right. So
answering your question, the rear of the property the downspouts get discharged to the rear, and that flow goes to the rain gardens, overland flow.
Okay. So in order to make them function properly, they need to have water go in them, or the plants won't survive. So that's what I was making sure that actual water was being diverted from the downspout.
Right, and as I testified, you also have I went through this. The rear of the lots are lots 21, 20, 19, and 18. So you're having a significant bunch of rear lots all getting into that drainage system, and then that drainage system is sized, and it has a little emergency outlet to it.
Sure.
So it allows that flow not to be deterred, but it continues to flow, but you get the treatment. So,
Right.
for the most sense, all of the storms under the 100, these quick summer rainfalls, this basin's gonna, reduce the flow all the time for these people.
I think it's good. I just wanted to make sure that was connected. And I've spoken with Jim Purcell on this many times. It wasn't pointed out, so I was just clarifying that.
Yeah, Jim Purcell's and I will hammer it all out, and then we have though Paul Sherrati should be reviewing the drainage information. He does. So we have 3 heads looking at this.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one. Dave, do you have any concern about running all the driveway water down through the property across the sidewalk into the street?
I don't. I mean, that's where the water was always going. I mean, it's only 2 properties removed, and it's only about, I agree with 1,000 square feet, but it's a little bit less. So it's not a significant amount of water, and, 200 feet down the stream toward the, my north arrow, to the east, the water runs, it runs down, and that's where the water was always going. So, it's not a substantial increase, and, 200 feet down, that's where it was going anyway, because it was getting it from the rear, but to that point. So, Prospect was always handling that amount of runoff. And then with the stormwater management system, it's going to slightly decrease it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Board members? Okay, Mr. Schatzman, what would you like to do next? You want to,
Public, let's see if anybody's here from the public. I want
Public comment.
no, I understand that. That's fine. Do you want to say anything, Mr. Schatzman, before I open it to the public?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, let's open it to the public. Claudia, has anybody raised their hands indicating they'd like to speak?
Yes, two people. David, can you take down your screen?
Okay,
Mr. Gregory and Mr. Carney are on their panelists now.
okay. All right, who do we want to have first? Mr. Gregory?
Mr.
Okay,
Greger, we just need your address and then we need to swear you in. So if you could give us your address, please.
Sure, 686 Prospect Avenue.
All right. And we are going to swear you in. If you would just raise your right hand, you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful.
I do.
Thank you.
thank you.
This is very much from an amateur perspective. I'm just the owner of the other lot on the other side. And I didn't quite understand the proposal for the variance because we're friends with also Lot 8. We're line 19, and we've always wanted to create a little lane to connect our homes, in part to help the children not have to cross on Princeton Kingston Road and come behind also to Prospect Avenue. Just a question of information. That's not possible. As I understood, the contractor wanted to purchase some variance or to create a lane in that back of the house. Is that a possibility?
No, it is not.
No.
That whole testimony that I was trying to, which I give to the board members, which they hear quite often, is the first thing they ask is if there's any way to relieve the variances being sought. And the issue is I really can't because all the surrounding properties are also undersized. So therefore I can't obtain land. I mean,
So we have no land that we could offer up to create a fence that creates a little channel between Lot 8 and Lot 19 onto Prospect.
No.
Could you do
Okay.
it by way of an easement?
Well, you can always grant easements, but I'm not thinking that you putting an easement for pedestrian traffic in the rear of the property is something my client's gonna want to say. I don't think it would be in mind that if he has young kids walking in the back of the property going from lot 18 to lot 19 to lot 8, that he's going to inject. I did it all. I was from a borough of a town down in South Jersey. We did it all the time. It's just, I just feel you put an easement there, that's forever, and kids are around for 10 years. I would think as long as the kids are not noisy, and they're just cutting from lot 8. Lot 8 is behind our client's property. I just feel that you should do it. I'm not saying, but an easement, I just don't feel we're granting, but young kids, I don't see, traversing from, my kids did it here in Montgomery. They cross streams. I mean, it's not a pedestrian path, but it's a stream behind my backyard and no road. So they just cross the stream and, walk behind someone's property to get to save actually a 10-minute drive. So I'm sorry, but I feel that what your request is a short-term, need and put an easement is a long-term need. That's all.
And from a lawyer, I would advise my client not to because there's a liability for them.
Yep.
Get trips, we get sued. They
Okay.
join everybody. That's what it is.
Thank you. We'll just be good neighbors and hope a good neighbor buys the house. So
I think that's the best answer, and until they say no, do what you can, be quiet.
And while I have you, also as an amateur question, there's no sidewalk on this side of Prospect. Nothing is being done about that?
It's not,
Or that's a township, or that's a Princeton Township issue, not,
that's a Princeton Township issue, and if it doesn't have sidewalk, they're not gonna start with just putting a sidewalk. My client's only obligated for his property, not the whole subdivision, so.
okay.
And I'll tell you, there's a case called Amato versus Randolph Township. And Judge Pressler said that you really shouldn't put one sidewalk in without a whole design of your sidewalk or your pathway along a street. So unless you really should, good planning would dictate that you would build a sidewalk, all houses on the, would be on the west side of Prospect Avenue, so that it could be uniform. That's the way you do it. It was quoted in Miss Casey knows, case is called Amato versus Randolph Township.
Okay. And the same speed bumps would also, I guess, be township business.
We have no control over that, no.
This side of Prospect Avenue is used as a escape from Princeton Kingston Road, so the traffic has really increased along here.
That's something that you should
You wanna take it up
contact the
with
township engineer about. Are they-
Okay. Sorry to waste your time. Thank you very
No,
much.
not wasting
It's
time.
not a
look
waste of
forward
time
to
at all.
A beautiful house being built next door.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Claudia, would you like to bring the next member of the public in?
Mr. Carney?
Yes, hello.
Carney, we just need your address and then we'll swear you in.
I live at 702 Prospect Avenue, Princeton.
All right, and if you would raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Proceed, Mr. Carney.
So I just, some of the points I mentioned in my letter have been covered. I just like to expand on a couple of them. So first of all, about the runoff. We currently have a problem with runoff on Prospect Avenue. It undercuts the pavement. And I don't quite equate running through the back and coming to Prospect Avenue as being the same as going directly to Prospect Avenue, because if it runs through the back to get to Prospect Avenue, it gets absorbed partly on the way. So I think just adding 1,000 square feet of driveway rushing onto Prospect Avenue is going to exacerbate an erosion problem we already have. And I would recommend that the driveway runoff be directed to the front yard to let it be absorbed there before it runs off. I'm happy to work with whoever on more appropriate trees. Let's just table that for now until it's close to the time. And the last point about the radon remediation, I can almost guarantee that you'll need radon remediation. And according to the EPA, it's better to build in a passive radon system during construction rather than do a tack on afterwards, because then you can hide the fan, the piping is already in place, and maybe the passive system is good enough without the fan. So that's all I have to say. If anyone has questions.
I'll answer the radon. The builder always puts it in. He always puts in the fan and the pipes, always.
So he doesn't even try the passive system.
No, he puts it in all the time. So if it goes all more than 4 picocuries, you have it there. Hurry in. That's the way he constructs the house. That's what the public wants. So,
So is there any feedback on this issue of runoff going down Prospect Avenue rather than just
Sure.
maintaining
We're
some
going
runoff
one at a time. We're first with the radon, so I think the radon's built in. The trees, I don't like to push it to construction, so we're gonna make a change just so the resolution, if this is approved, I'm gonna go with the Leland Cypress. Rick Rosso, who's building the house, is a very good guy. Your arborist is very good. So we're gonna make the change from Norway spruce to Leland spiceless, just so the plans reflect the change. And then when time comes to put the tree in, you're gonna see Rick Rosso out there. If you have a tree that you're thinking of, the arborist and Rick Rosso can make a change, but I want the plans to at least reflect that we made the change from Norway spruce, because you are correct, they do grow very, very large. And we'll start with Leland spiceless and just so we don't miss it, and
Okay.
then we'll go from there. As far as the drainage, I don't agree. I mean, 1,000 square feet is not a substantial amount. You talk about absorption. Yeah, absorption works for 1.5 inches of rain, 2 inches of rain. It's the higher intensity rains. You have a significant drainage area, and when you have those high intensity storms, that rain just goes right to Prospect Ave. So it's a multi-layered onion, and I would say to Steve Cohen, as the chairman of this, we will, in it as a condition of approval, because I don't have privilege of exactly what you're seeing. When I'm designing the rain garden system, that Jim Purcell needs to look into the drainage problem that's also out there, and we'll address it as part of the stormwater management condition that is required for this approval, is how I would put it.
Okay. That seems to be reasonable. Mr. Carney, are you in agreement?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay. Okay, Claudia, is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
There are no more hands.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and turn it back over to Mr. Schatzman before we go into executive session.
It's a classic C1. The stormwater is to be ameliorated. We'll work with Mr. Carney on that, with Mr. Purcell. The trees, from what I gather from my landscape architect, who's very astute, I think will satisfy Mr. Carney, and I think we've covered all bases.
Okay. Thank you. All right, board members, any questions of the applicant or the witnesses? And if not, a motion.
I move we approve with the addition of the tree line changes that were proposed.
Second that.
Okay, just in terms of, Stephen, what about the offer on the part of the engineer to resolve any drainage issues during the latter part of the project?
Yeah, I mean, I assume
That should
that's
be in there
always part
also.
of it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that should be in there also.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have any other comments? We have a motion and a second. Claudia?
I just want to say I agree with that. I would hope that it does sound pretty reasonable to me that you'd want water to at least try to have a water absorbed by land rather than just shoot it out to the street. You know, I think that could cause other problems. So I would hope that that would be addressed.
Okay, I agree with you.
I thought that the passive radon sounds like a good idea, even if the fan formula is what people are used to. I'm not an expert, but it sounds like that would be a good thing if you could do that as you're building the house.
Okay,
So I don't know how I'm commenting on. I'm not sure if that gets put into the motion or not, but.
well, we
Only
could,
if you made it an amendment.
if you'd like it to be, it can be in.
But I don't think we can do that. I mean, it's a nice suggestion, but it's not a.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a zoning issue.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other comments? All right, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes,
Savage,
Yes.
LaFoy,
Yes,
Mr. Shriver,
Yes,
Mr. Stein,
you're muted,
George,
George.
muted.
Sorry, yes, yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Okay, our next hearing is 22 Dickinson Street, block 4401, lot 23 in the R4 zone in the Mercer Hill Historic District. Karen, is everything in order?
Yes, the board has jurisdiction. The noticing is in order.
Mr. Bridger, would you read your memo, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Friars Club Partners LLC are the owners and the applicants of 22 Dickinson Street. They are seeking C1 variance relief to permit additions in the conversion of a 3-unit multiple dwelling to a 2-family dwelling, an exception to the required lot width. Property is also in the Mercer Hill Historic District and is subject to review by that body. And Mrs. Kim is here tonight to present that memo. Properties in the R4 zone in the former borough. The existing multifamily use is permitted as of right. The subject lot is non-complying with respect to the 60-foot lot width requirement. The existing is 50. The subject property is also non-complying with regard to the 3-to-1 height setback ratio. The existing is non-complying. Non-complying with the required 8-foot side yard smaller setback. Existing is 3.8 and non-complying with the larger side yard setback requirement of 12, the existing 7.27, and the non-compliant with the combined 20-foot side yard setback requirement, and the existing is 11.07. The applicant is proposing to remove the rear 2-story portion of the existing multifamily dwelling and convert that building to a 2-family dwelling with 2 units bookended, with one facing the street and the other the rear yard. The front facing unit will contain a den, living room, dining room, laundry, kitchen, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and the rear unit will contain living room, kitchen, laundry, dining room, 3 bedrooms, and 2.5 baths as well. A new entry porch will be added to the front facing unit on the eastern side, and 2 new porches will be added to the rear facing unit on the same facade. A shed and a driveway leading to 4 new parking spaces will be added in the rear yard. The new addition complies with all the applicable zoning regulations. However, the project does not meet the required lot width. The 2 adjoining lots are both non-complying with regard to the required lot width. So they're seeking a variance from the required 60-foot lot width. The existing and proposed is 50 feet, and they have applied under the C1 criteria. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, I believe Elizabeth is here with her memo from the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Bridger?
Yes, I do have a question for Mr. Bridger. This actually diminishes the construction footprint on the lot. Is that correct?
I don't know off the top of my head. It brings it down from 3 units to 2.
Are
Okay,
there no elevations for this? Vanessa?
I believe
Yes.
they were in the packet.
Yep.
They are.
I
Yes,
know
sir.
they were on the website. I'll find them.
I don't see them in my packet.
Yeah, I have to look on the website. I saw them this morning. I'm trying to find them now.
Oh, here they, okay. I found one.
No, there were a series, there were several.
We'll certainly be showing them during our presentation if that's.
Okay, all right.
I think it actually expands the footprint a little bit, but I'm going to let the applicant, maybe their engineer can speak to that.
Okay, Ms. Kim, would you want to summarize your memo?
Yes, thank you. Mr.
Elizabeth will
Chairman.
just swear you in. Do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
So the property is located within the Mercer Hill Historic District, which Mr. Bridger had already specified. The applicant was reviewed at HPC's meeting on August 15, 2022. In addition, the applicant received a concept review from HPC at their meeting on October 18, 2021. At that time, several suggestions from HPC on the development plan was provided to the applicant, and which was now incorporated into the final application, which HPC much appreciated. The existing structure on the property was constructed in 1870 and 1880 and was previously known as the Friar Club Eating Club by the Princeton Theological Seminary. Proposed conversion of the structure from 3 units to 2 units will retain the historic structure at the front of the property facing Dickinson Street. The section of the existing building behind the side bay window proposes to be demolished and a new addition built in its place. Additional demolition is removal of the rear attic stairs and dormer, the basement access stairs, removal of the exterior stair ramp and railing from the ground level to the upper floor, which is seen from the street, and the demolition of an existing shed in the rear yard. In addition to these improvements, 2 trees will be removed on the property for the improvements, and 3 new trees are proposed to be installed near the new shed that's going to be constructed. HPC voted unanimously to recommend to your board approval of the variance application by the applicant, and the application is approved by, and if the application is approved by your board, then HPC voted also to approve the demolition that's required to implement these improvements. HPC was very supportive of the application for a number of reasons. First, the application has creatively retained the portion of the existing historic house and is viewed from Dickinson Street with some minor changes and some improvements by removing some of those staircases and ramps that can be seen from the front of the building. This will maintain and continue to enhance the streetscape for the Mercer Hill District and preserve the historic character of the existing structure. In addition, the addition that is proposed appropriately delineates the old from the new, and it creates a harmonious transition of the 2 sections. It uses similar architectural features on the existing historic structure without completely mimicking it on the new addition. HPC does offer 2 recommendations. The first is that there was a discussion about stormwater that had come about. And so their concern is that they just would like your board to ensure that the stormwater management plan for the rain garden will operate and be properly maintained. The second is that the foundation, the rear portion of the structure that's to be demolished has a stone foundation. They would like to see if this stone foundation, which is probably taken from a local quarry, can somehow be repurposed on the property. For the new unit to the rear, HPC also asks that the new concrete foundation tint to blend a little bit more appropriately with the existing historic structure. But all in all, HPC was extremely supportive of this application, and they thought that the architect and the applicant did a very good job. I'm available for any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Kim? Okay, thank you. Mr. Kennedy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Claudia, if we could, I've got one other person, if we can move Chris Myers over. That's where our architect is screening this evening. We also will have Tom O'Shea, our engineer, who can talk about the stormwater. Again, Ryan Kennedy from Stevens and Lee for the applicant. Very excited about this one on 22 Dickinson. As Derek and Ms. Kim noted, it's a restoration of a project that had been in the hands of the seminary for quite some time and quite oddly split up into a 3-family. And I say oddly in that a unsightly exterior staircase was added that allowed access to the second floor, which actually was where 2 apartments for seminarians were put together. It was a arrangement perhaps only appropriate for that situation. And the applicant here has worked with Ron Gretzinger, historic architect, and the team at Van Note Harvey to create a plan to modernize and restore this property. As part of it, you'll hear a rain garden in the back, but essentially turning it into a 2-unit, which is more fitting for the building rather than that kind of oddly configured second floor 2-unit arrangement that was there previously. As Mr. Bridger said, while there's a lot of existing nonconformities, the only variance needed tonight is your classic C1 variance for lot width. We'll show you a lovely chart that shows how many of the lots are non-conforming. It's all of them, and how much property is available to perhaps obtain from the neighbors. And as Mr. Bridger said in his memo, there is none. There's no way to make this conforming without making another property more non-conforming around it. We hope you agree with HPC that the work that went into this was well done and appropriate for this type of historic building. Quite a lot of effort went in for that. As I know, we'll have 2 witnesses. One of them, or maybe perhaps we'll have them both sworn in, our architect and engineer, but I can see both of them here now on screen.
All right. Mr. Myers, we need your, there you go. Mr. Myers and Mr. O'Shea, if you'd raise your right hand, you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful.
Well, I actually want to get Ronnie. She just happens to be in Chris's office this evening. It's Ronnie Bredziger, our architect, who once sworn in.
Ms.
Sorry.
Bergenzer, I'm sorry, it will swear you in then. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I do.
All right. With that, Ronnie, before we put our exhibits up, and we'll have one slideshow that I'd like to that we'll mark, I suppose, as A1 as we usually do. Ronnie, I know you've testified in many times before, but you want to give the board the benefit of your credentials, so I can have you accepted here tonight as an expert.
Sure. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey since 1991, which is also when I started my company. So I've been a sole proprietor, LLC in Princeton, practicing architecture since 1991.
Okay. Have you testified before this board before?
I have.
Okay. And you are a registered architect in New Jersey?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll accept her. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ronnie, if you want to share your screen, or I could if it's not popping up, but we'll start going through our slides. Excellent. Thank you. So, Ronnie, if you want to just take us to the second slide and just give the board a little bit of background about where this property is.
First, thank you, and Derek and Elizabeth, for great explanations. Basically, I'm just going to start with a key map showing where Dickinson Street is, running between Alexander and University Place. You can see the little red dot for 22 Dickinson. Next slide. As you know, it is in the historic zone, and for Mercer Hill Historic, this is just a picture of how it looked in 1914 when it was the Friars Club and Eating Club for the seminary. And now just moving on to some photos. Here's a front elevation of the building with its 2 taller neighbors next door, and we'll move on to the next. This is the left side elevation. As Elizabeth mentioned, the rear 2-story portions are what we would like to remove. We're retaining the main box, the main gable of the house, which is where you see the bay window and the chimney, all that remains. And then as we move around to the back, here's the rear elevation. Again, that two-story, basically flat roof, very low slope roof would be removed all the way back to the main body of the house. There's a small Bilco door to the left, which would be removed, and a small sort of odd dormer that allowed you to go up into the attic. That is also proposed to be removed. Into the right side of the house, again, the same rear additions to be removed, and just a better picture of the Bilco door and the upper gable. This is the stair that was mentioned. This is an exterior stair that allows you to go up and then across a walkway over a porch to the two upper apartment units. This is a rear shed, which is also proposed to be removed. Oddly, the opening of the shed, although the shed is on Dickinson's property, or 22's property, the opening faces the university, and it seemed to be used as a bike shed for the university. It did not work to close it and reverse its opening due to grading issues, so we're proposing a new shed for 22 Dickinson. Just some streetscape pictures showing Dickinson, 22 Dickinson in context with its neighbors in the street. This is south side of Dickinson Street. This is a rear view looking from the sidewalk of Alexander towards the properties and seeing the rear of 22 Dickinson, 16, and the other properties. This is a proposed site plan diagram. We have Tom O'Shea with us to speak in more detail with his site plans, but this is just a basic to show what we propose to do. So you can see the dark tan in the front on Dickinson Street to the right on your screen. That's the portion we intend to keep and maintain and restore. The hatched lines, the one nearest the driveway, is the exterior stair. The back diagonal hatched lines are the existing Bilco door and rear sloped portion to be removed. In the back, you'll see the hatched line showing the small shed. The tan portion is the addition, so you can see we are adding to somebody's question who asked if it was getting bigger than it was, and that answer is yes. We are also proposing the kidney-shaped rain garden in the rear of the property, which Tom will talk more about. And we are proposing a 4-space parking area, 2 spaces for each of the proposed 2 dwelling units. The driveway is basically in the same spot, but shifted 3 feet to the right towards the house to get it to comply and actually take it off the neighbor's property. And now it's paved and the proper width. And then we're also proposing a small amount of landscaping along the Alexander side, you can see there, to help screen the parking area. For the house itself, what we're proposing is a 2-family dwelling, and indeed for families. So it would have a kitchen, dining room, living room, 2.5 baths, 3 bedrooms, laundry room, so a family house. We've added porches for entries on the back for unit 2 and on the side, 1 for each unit, to ease with bringing things up from the parking area and coming in on the side. The front, you can see, is mainly intact how it was. Upstairs, again, you can see the 2 units, the front being unit 1, again, mainly intact, just without that lovely stair coming up from the outside, and the back unit being the addition. And then in the basement, keeping the foundation, of course, for the front, having a bit of an addition to unit 1, which would have a basement and then a stair down, a better space from some mechanicals. And then unit 2 would have mechanical space in the basement, as well as a partially finished basement, as you can see. This is the front of the property. Looking at the house, you can see the height to setback ratio diagrams, the angles coming up where the existing does not comply. You can see that the addition, which you barely see to the left from this straight on view, does comply. The front of the house is going to retain the windows, retain the siding, retain the brackets. Everything will be repaired, adding shutters to be more historic and take it back more to 1914. And then moving to this is the left side. Historically, picking up the proportion of what the new with the old, reusing elements such as the gables, the porches, the siding, the double hung windows, all sort of play off the historic home that we're retaining and adding to. The additions are lower than the historic house also, kind of drop down and then come back up to make a break between new and existing, and all of that is lower slightly than the old historic home. The rear, proposed rear, again, you can see the setback lines, the height setback ratio, again, compliance on the one side and non-compliance with the existing on the other. However, all the additions do comply. This is the right side. Again, keeping the main house, as you can see, and then the existing, this is the side that would have some of our utilities, the electric, as you can see, heat pumps, HVAC. The house would have all new roof shingles. The front would get painted. The back is hardy plank panel, and double hung windows again to mimic the existing. This is the small shed we're proposing in the back, 12 feet by 8 feet, basically large enough to put your bicycle in, and maybe a little bit of maybe some gardening products or perhaps a lawn chair or two, but basically a small shed, 1/2 for each unit. And with that, that's the bulk of the architectural. If there's any questions, we could do that now, or Tom O'Shea will talk a bit about his plans here and stormwater management.
Any questions of the architect?
Maybe I missed something. I saw on that last elevation, something about a back painted panel at the window on the upper left.
Oh, the window on the upper left, we're retaining the window, painting it, but because it falls into the bathroom, we're putting a black panel on the inside. So the window remains, but the panel is behind. So you really won't notice that it has been blocked off.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And I've done that on other historic properties. Works quite well, especially since it's on the right side too. I would not have done that if it was the front elevation.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, please proceed.
All right, next we'll have Tom O'Shea from Van and Harvey. I know he's testified many times before Princeton's boards. I think he and I were on even last Thursday for planning, but if you could briefly give your credentials, Tom, and I'll have you accepted as an expert for our civil engineering tonight.
Thank you, Ryan. The name is Tom O'Shea. I'm with the firm Van Note Harvey Associates. I'm a partner within the firm. I'm a licensed professional engineer since 1986 and have been before this board and the planning board many times.
Mr. O'Shea, we will accept you as an expert.
Thank you.
I also thought he was overkill for tonight, but we wanted to talk about the stormwater plan. So Tom, you want to take us through the site plan real quickly, and then what you guys have in mind for stormwater here tonight?
Thank you, Ryan. So the plan that's on the screen right now is the existing condition survey. And there's really two views here. The one on the right is the property in context to its surrounding, and on the left-hand side is the existing condition survey for the site. The site is lot 23, block 44.01, and it's 10,023 square feet, 50 feet by approximately 200 feet. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is the existing site plan. Dickinson Street is on the bottom of the page. Alexander Street is to the right-hand side. We're one lot in from the corner. Again, the lot size is 50 by 200 roughly. There's the existing drive off of Dickinson on the left-hand side, which goes toward the back of the existing structure, and that's being extended to the back and provided 4 parking spaces. 2 of the parking spaces will have an EV charger associated with it. The drainage to the back is a compliant rain garden, and this project by municipal definition is a minor development. The increase in impervious surface is about 2,100 square feet, and the disturbance is 0.21 acres. The rain garden is approximately a foot deep. It's actually less than that. And the stormwater volume stored, over 50% of it will be in the soil sand mixture below the basin. And when the design storm is exceeded, it will be released toward the back of the site. Surprisingly enough, the soil testing in this area found very good infiltration on the order of about 12 inches per hour, which is really very quick. And what happens is on the right-hand side of the building, there's a vegetated swale that enters the bio basin, rain garden, and the parking and the building addition also discharge into it. Fully compliant, meets the town code, including green infrastructure. That's the stormwater aspect. Just real quickly, the utilities that serve the site come off of Dickinson. We have water, sanitary, and gas, and electric is overhead at the rear of the site. And with the project, we'll be taking down 2 trees. There is 1 hemlock in the back of the sites that's not in very good condition. And there's a northern maple right next to the building addition where we're excavating for foundation and basement, and that tree will not survive. So we have the planting on the screening planting on the right-hand side of the site, and we've also added 3 trees. Is there any questions relative to the site design?
No.
Okay,
Board members, any questions of Mr. O'Shea? Oh, please proceed.
All right, thank you. I'll leave Tom up here, but we got just 3 more slides just to summarize the variance. Again, here's the property here in the zone. If we go to the next slide, we'll show you the particulars of this block. We're here for a lot width variance. None of the properties on this block comply for lot width. If we go to the next slide, again, as Mr. Bridger put in his memo, that's our property in blue with the red on either side showing that those are also non-compliant and unavailable for us to obtain any other width. With that, we just go to the last slide again, just not to steal her thunder, but we started with Elizabeth Kim, and very appreciative of the work both at our concept review and before the board, and not that was necessarily a charrette with HPC, but it really does make for a great end product when applicants work with them. And I just want to again state our appreciation for the chair and the members and Ms. Kim in assisting us in our 2 hearings to get to this point. With that, if anyone has any questions for anyone who's testified tonight, happy to answer them, but I want to thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Hi, I just, Ms. Kim made 2 comments, one relative to the stormwater. And I didn't quite get it all down on paper here, but and the other
specific, I believe, you know, the idea was to just go through the stormwater plan And certainly, I believe the testimony was that it's compliant. If I know anything about the engineers we hired, probably above and beyond what is necessary. And then second, Ron, if you want to speak to the rubble, I believe we're interested in looking at ways to reuse that and certainly comply with the, not just the town's obligation or requirement to divert it from a landfill, but to see if there's any other uses for it, and that's something we can explore. Anything specific on that, Ronnie? You want to
We don't have a specific idea yet, but yes, talking with the Friars Club, we do intend to try to do something with that stonework, whether it's use it as landscape material or something. So we'll try to do that. We cannot repurpose it into our foundation. And then as far as our foundations that you will see, which is cement parging, we're going to color that cement parging so it'll blend into the colors of the house, which on this last slide, you can see what the colors of the house will be. These are all based on historic colors. So we will try to be blending the foundation in so it works with this color palette.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, if there are no other questions, then we'll open it up to the public.
I have one quick question, Steve. I'm sorry. How many people live in the house now? You have any idea?
Well, I think at this
I
moment,
can't speak to that. Yeah, no idea.
No one's living there.
No one's there now.
Oh, they're not?
No.
yeah, it was
Thank you.
purchased from the seminary about a year ago. Perhaps close to the end it was used by the seminary, but it may not have even been actively used towards the
Okay.
end.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's, Claudia, have any of the public indicated, anyone in the public indicated they'd like to speak?
There are no hands.
Okay. Okay, we'll close the public portion. Mr. Ryan, one last comment before we go into executive session?
Again, thank you all. This is like the last application. Your classic C1. Unfortunately, there's nothing any of the lots on this side of the street in this block can do about their lot width issue. If you agree with HPC's recommendation on the work in the historic preservation that's gone into this project. So thank you for your consideration tonight.
You're welcome. Board members, any questions or discussions on the application?
You want to quit screen sharing?
Please.
Thank you.
So, any discussion on the application or any questions? Or if none, does somebody want to make a motion?
Steve, I just had one quick question for Derek, just for clarification. Derek, the existing nonconformities for the dwelling are going to continue, correct? Or will they
Some of
still
them
be
are
non-compliant but changing?
side yard setback, the larger side yard and the combined gets better on because they're removing the stairway. That's on the side of the house.
It seemed like most of the nonconformities that there were a lot of them on the rear portion, and the rear portion now will be conforming, I assume, right? Looks that way.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
So moved for approval. Nope. Go ahead, Bernice.
Who moved it?
Steve,
Okay. do we
So
have a
moved.
sec-
So
we have a
moved.
second? Second, anyone?
yeah, I seconded.
Okay, Ms. Chen. Okay, any more discussion on the motion before we vote? Okay, Claudia, can you please call the roll?
Chen,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Davich,
Yes.
Boyd,
Yes.
Stein, Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Did I vote on that?
I don't think so.
Shriver.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a well-done project. Thank you. Okay, our fourth hearing is 11 Madison Street, block 28.03, lot 50 in the R4 zone. Yes, Mr. Berger,
We take a quick 5-minute break where we start
excellent
this.
idea.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, before we do that, is it possible to move over Robert Frank, Mindy Frank, and Eric Holterman, just so we don't have to do that when we come back on the other side?
Something will fit.
Okay, we'll just wait a minute more for, oh, there we go, we're coming back. We're just missing Eve and Stephen. Okay, as soon as Eve comes back, we'll start. And Bernice. Is Bernice? Just need Eve.
Yeah, I'm here. You don't see me?
Eve, are you around? Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. Okay, once again, the last hearing, 11 Madison Street, block 28.03, lot 50 in the R4 zone. And this was a continuation from an earlier hearing. Okay, Karen, is everything in order for us to proceed?
Yes, the applicant has noticed for tonight's hearing and the noticing is in order.
Good. Mr. Bridger, can you read your memo, please?
Derek, you're muted.
Oh, yes,
Apologize.
that's okay. Okay, please read your memo.
Just to recap, the applicant appeared before the zoning board on April 27th, 2022. They did not complete their presentation at that time and the hearing was continued. The applicant has redesigned the proposed plans and noticed for a new hearing date. The new redesign reduces the FAR from 66.32% to 63.3%. And the plan calls for retention of the existing house and foundation and retains the existing roof lines. New two-story additions will be added to the rear and front elevations. The subject lot's not complying with regard to the required 6,000 square foot lot area. The existing is 4,205 square feet. It's also not compliant with the 60-foot lot width requirement. The existing is 29 feet. And then the subject property is non-compliant with respect to the smaller side yard requirement, 8 foot, existing is 2.1 feet, larger side yard requirement is 12 and the existing is 2.2. Combined side yard is 6.3. Required height to setback is 3 to 1. The existing is 14.4 to 1. And impervious coverage requirements maximum is 61.5 and the existing 63.35%. And the front yard setback requirement is 25 and the existing is 24.3. I mentioned the FAR earlier. The maximum permitted for the lot is 52%. The existing FAR is 42.34% and the proposed is 63.3, which is a reduction from the previous iteration of 66.32. The new bulk requirements for this proposal will require a smaller side yard setback. Pretty much matches the existing setback of 2.1 feet. And the same with the larger side yard setback, the requirement's 12 and the existing and the proposed will be 2.2. As they do say, they are going to save the foundation. And the combined side yard setback is 6.3. The height to setback of the existing 14.4 to 1 will not change. And that's for the 2.5 story portion, and the height to setback ratio for the 2-story portion requirements again 4.5 to 1. It's existing at 10.2 to 1, and that will not change. The impervious coverage maximum requirement is 61.5. The existing is 62.1%, and the proposed will be 56.7. Front yard setback, the requirement is 25, and the proposed will be 18.3. And there's a requirement, section 10B 381, I believe, requirement between buildings. On the left elevation, the requirement is a 10-foot separation between the windows, and the existing and proposed will both be 10.6. The D variance, which is the FAR variance, does require 5 affirmative votes out of 7. The applicant needs to demonstrate that the lot is not necessarily suited for the more intensive development, but that it can, that it is suited for the proposed FAR. Excuse me, and they're requesting a C1 variance request for the bulk variances. And Elizabeth Kim is here again. This is in the Historic Preservation District, and her board has reviewed it, and I believe she has a report. It's not in an actual district, but it's in a suggested district, and in that case, they do offer a review. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to address them. Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth, would you like to summarize your memo, please?
Yes, so 11 Madison Street is, as Mr. Bridger has stated, is in the suggested central residential historic district, which is identified in the historic preservation element of the Princeton Community Master Plan. Therefore, pursuant to section 10B 379, item 2 of the Princeton Code, this application was referred to Historic Preservation Commission for a courtesy review. The applicant's original plans were considered by HPC at their meeting on April 18th, 2022. An HPC chair memo was issued with the date of April 25, 2022 to your board, which was not supportive of that application. At that time, HPC was of the opinion that the original plans proposed for the development were out of character with the other Victorian homes located on that street. Following HPC's review of the original plans, they did urge the applicant to substantially reconsider their design to retain the historic character, or at least some of the components of the historic character and the streetscape. The applicants worked with a new architect and returned to HPC for a concept review of their new design at HPC's meeting on July 28th, 2022. At this meeting, HPC appreciated the efforts that they had made to retain certain elements of the historic structure, which was compatible and indicative of the historic properties on that street, and they expressed general support of the new design. The applicants then returned to HPC with their final revised design on September 19, 2022. The applicants no longer proposed demolishing the existing single-family structure, and instead they redesigned the plans to preserve the existing building footprint, foundation, basement windows, centered attic windows, and most importantly, the gable roof line and the building height. The existing front porch is going to be removed, and the left side, the front facade, will project towards Madison Street for both the first and second floor. The right side of the front facade will not project towards the street and will remain at the same plane that exists, and it will retain the existing window on that side and the center attic window. And again, that gable roof will echo the other houses along that street that have a similar gable roof. There are major alterations to the house. However, HP felt that these changes really were a great improvement to what they had originally designed. The addition still will be a two-story addition in the rear and part of the front elevation as discussed. And they continue to have a new freestanding one-car garage, which will have a green roof in the rear of the property, which will continue to have access from Willow Street. HPC was unanimous in their opinion that the revised plans were significantly more appropriately architecturally designed. The gable roof of the proposed renovation is visibly compatible with the other single-family houses in the Madison Street neighborhood. And they were very supportive and appreciative that the applicant had made these changes. Although the new house is going to have a contemporary style, HPC does not discourage contemporary architecture, and they felt that the changes that were made will fit and be compatible to the streetscape. So they are supportive of the variances, although it was not discussed, but they felt that the variance is necessary to facilitate and implement the applicant's revised design they were supportive of. Any questions? I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Elizabeth? Okay, Mr. Kennedy, please start.
Yep. Good evening, everyone again. Ryan Kennedy, still from Stevens and Lee. At the outset, I'm sure many of you remember this back from April. It's been a lot of work from these applicants. We've got a new architect, a brand new plan. We spent a lot of time and are very appreciative of the feedback we got here and our 3 trips to HPC to get something that I think we certainly feel, and I believe now HPC feels is compatible with the neighborhood, which is really what we're interested in putting forward here tonight. The new plan is.
Mr. Kennedy, before, I just wanted a quick question for you. We have a board member tonight who was not in attendance at the prior hearing. She had some technical difficulties listening to the tape of that hearing. So my question for you tonight is, you've just indicated this is a brand new plan.
Correct.
Do you intend to rely on any prior testimony that was presented? Because I don't recall how far you got at the last hearing.
We do not, only by reference to what we had, to the work that went into changing it. Nothing substantive about that initial plan.
All right, so tonight will be new testimony to support a new plan. Would that be a good way to describe it?
It is.
Okay. So that would mean you would have no objection then to that board member
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. Though I believe we have one in. I guess I get 7. I believe we have 8 this evening.
That's correct. So if you have any concerns, we would still have an additional member.
I don't have any concerns, but I just want to make sure I counted correctly that.
You did. You did. All right. Thank you very much.
So as I was saying, the applicants took everything they heard from HPC and this board and went back to the drawing board, brought in a brand new architect to redesign the home based on all those comments. You'll hear tonight that the design that we submitted last time was about 2,900 square feet or more. We're close to 2,600 square feet, which we believe is appropriate for the street. You've got on Madison Street, you'll hear there are floor area ratios as high as 87%, and many homes in the low 3,000 square foot or in range with the proposal here tonight. You'll hear how we are reducing the impervious coverage from the existing condition. Not only is a variance not needed, but we are significantly reducing the coverage and doing a kind of an innovative green, not only a green roof over the garage that is being proposed, but a front yard treatment that is green and indicative of a low water and low mow situation rather than a traditional lawn. You'll hear how the use of the existing gable and the addition of dormers essentially uses the current footprint and shape and size of the home, which again, we agree with HPC fits in size and scale and cadence and with the streetscape of the neighborhood. And that was a concern not just of HPC's and this board, but of the applicant as well. And we took that feedback and back to the drawing board with a new architect to completely revise what we're looking at here tonight. The list of variances as compared to last time has diminished considerably. We'll have a slide on that later, but essentially by removing coverage from the site, we not only remove that variance requirement, but take it from a non-conforming to a conforming condition, which for a small site like this is quite challenging, but we believe it helps not only with the environmental aspects of the project, but in ensuring that this site and this neighborhood can handle the house that's being proposed. And we believe it does. The other variances that are needed are your classic C1s, in that they're a lot width and lot area, that, like just about every other lot in the neighborhood, are unfortunately set at a spot that is not conforming with the R4 zone, leaving us no options, unfortunately, to expand or to correct. The front yard setback, while a variance is needed, you'll see that we've actually pulled the front back 2 feet from the existing condition, which we feel is both appropriate for the street, and mitigates any kind of impact from the front part of the home. I guess from a technical perspective, I believe Mindy and Robert were sworn in last time. I don't know if they should be sworn in again out of extra caution if they're still under oath, but
Oh, that's okay. We'll swear, we will swear them in again. Mr. and Mrs. Frank, if you'd raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Robert and Mindy, since we are kind of starting anew, if you just briefly reintroduce yourselves. I know you've been working not just with a new team and a new design, and a smaller home and other aspects of compromise and reacting to the feedback that you've gotten from HPC and this board. But I'll caution you not to engage in hearsay, but I know you've been talking to and gotten some feedback from your neighbors. And if you could just introduce yourselves and then talk about your outreach efforts with some of the neighborhood as well, and the feedback you've gotten.
Sure. Well, Robert and Mindy Frank, we've been living in the town for about close to 30 years at this point. And as you've mentioned, both Ms. Kim and Ryan, that we're very excited that we have a new architect on board, Eric Holzman from HMR, which I'm sure many of you may be familiar with. And I think just one key point with that is that he has probably brought a wealth of design experience and, importantly, neighborhood sensibility to the project, which we felt we needed, we felt welcome to get. And again, as you mentioned, we went before the board, the HPC 3 times. We heard what you said, we listened, and I think we made some significant design changes accordingly. And to your point, Ryan, about the neighborhood, we certainly spoke to a number of the neighbors, both my wife and I, and I'd just say overall, we've gotten a lot of strong support to the revised design. Some of the people may be on this call tonight, on the Zoom call tonight. Particularly, they like the gabled roof, how it enhances the flow of the street. They felt it was the overall look and what we're doing material-wise was updated and refreshing, and just again a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. And they were in total support of the design. So thank you.
I think I'd just like to add to that. We've also reached out not just to our neighbors that are on Madison Street, but also on other neighboring streets such as Park and Willow as well. So we haven't just confined it to Madison. The back of our home is to Willow Street, and we have access into our property through Willow Street, which we're very grateful for.
Thank you. Unless there's any questions for the applicants, I'd like to introduce Eric Holterman. I know not for the first time. Oh, sure.
Yeah, one question. Included in the neighbors you talked to, did that include the immediate neighbors to the left and the right? Are they supportive?
The immediate neighbor to the left, we've spoken to him in the past. Our understanding is that we don't even know if he's living there anymore. So we haven't spoken to him. Most recently, he seemed to, we're not sure if they're, again, who's living in the house right now. The neighbor on the right, I believe that she was on last time. We have not spoken to her. I have not actually met her. We have met her husband. And she may be on this call tonight, so I'm sure she'll, if she is, she'll speak up. But we did, in fact, speak to the immediate neighbor in back of us on Willow Street. And she was extremely supportive of the project. And unfortunately, she's traveling tonight, so I'm not sure if she was going to try and land on time to be on the call or not. But she absolutely loved the design, both for Madison as well as complementing the Willow Street townhomes as well.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, I'll ask Mr. Holterman to introduce himself, for the umpteenth time to the board and briefly give his credentials so I can have him accepted as expert this evening.
I'll swear you in first, Mr. Holtman. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Holterman, partner at HMR Architects. HMR is a successor firm to Holt & Morgan, formed in 1972 in Princeton. I've been a licensed architect since 1985 and have been at HMR for a little over 20 years.
You've testified before us before, and I think we'll accept you as an expert.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. As we normally do, we've got one package of exhibits. Eric, if you want to give it a try, sharing your screen, we could start going through it. And I guess we'll call this A1, Ms. Casey, if that's the convention. Thank you. Or I know we're starting fresh. Is there anything that we need to do to differentiate between A1 last time? It is a different slide deck. It's dated today, if that helps.
Okay,
If there's any confusion.
That's fine.
So Eric, as we start, if you could just perhaps begin with what you were asked to do and the nature of the assignment, and then we can go into the location for the board here.
So the nature of the assignment was that there was a previous hearing at HPC where there was a feeling that the previously proposed design was not appropriate for the neighborhood and that perhaps another look needed to be taken. Robert and Mindy asked me to take a look at it, and my first thought in looking at the previous design was, we'll talk about what I think might work here, and we'll go from there to see if you agree with me or not, because I don't believe that I can do what the previous architect did. So we took it sort of a step at a time, starting very right at the beginning with saying that this house is the center house in a row of 5 gable-fronted houses, really needed to retain that roof form and respond more to the character of the street. So we went from there, still understanding that the client's desire was for contemporary house. That's something that I'm actually quite comfortable working with as well in the context of other historic houses.
Thanks. And as we go through, we can, the board and everyone's familiar, but maybe just briefly talk about where we're orient the board here to where we are in the former borough. And that's arrow is pointing obviously to the property with Madison Street down the center, and kind of under the arrow is Willow Street, the kind of alleyway where access to the property is obtained.
And I'll go on to the next slide. And then again, you can see Willow coming in from the back and the new Willow Street houses on Willow Street, and then on Madison houses with a consistent street frontage.
All right, so this next slide, blue is our property, but red are all of the lots that are non-conforming for lot width. I'll say many of them are. This zone requires 60 feet of frontage. Many of them, including ours, are half that. And as we'll talk about later, even with proportional FAR, it is as you proceed towards infinitely small, what is intended by those ordinances doesn't necessarily fit the types of homes that are commonly found in the neighborhood. And we'll talk about some of them later on, and perhaps on the next slide.
So the row across the top is the row of the two houses immediately to the left and the two houses immediately to the right of the subject property of 11 Madison. And the signifying characteristic is that they all have a gable front facing the street. That front gable wall is more or less aligned. And what you can see on the row below is the opposite side of the street, where there's actually quite a bit more variety. Overall, there's more variety. The five houses shown on the top that are in the row with 11 Madison have some consistency, but as you continue down the street, then there tends to be more variety.
Before we leave this slide, just to note a few things. 12 Madison, I know we pulled up all of the tax records for sites here, but many of the lots on this street, including the two right across the street, are larger than the proposal. 12 Madison being more than 3,000 square feet, and 14 being more than 2,600 square feet. We'll maybe get into more of that later, but just wanted to point that out since we were looking at them straight on.
Some other characteristics of the street is that while the gable fronts may generally align, there is a variety of projections from the front of that gable wall. At 23, all the way on the left, you see, a rounded porch. Madison is getting a new porch. 17 Madison has a porch over a bay. Anyway, so you can see there's a variety of treatments on the fronts of these houses and a variety of projections. The site plan, the next few drawings show the existing and proposed side by side for comparison. So on the left, you can see the existing house and the line that it ends at. And then on the right, you can see where we are looking at extending the house back a bit and adding a garage at the back. The other thing that you'll see on slides that come up is that the enclosed porch on the front, we're actually pulling that in a little bit in order to increase the size of the front yard. So these two plans existing on the left, proposed on the right, show the gable wall, the front gable wall, that line, maintaining that alignment. On the left, you can see where the existing porch is. At one point, the porch was built to 6 feet out from the front of the house, and then at a later date, a small addition to the porch brought it out 8 feet from the front of the house, pulling that back to 6 and making that a smaller bay. That's more of an element on the front of the house, a different kind of projection on the front of the house. At the rear, the additions to the rear, the darker shade is the enclosed area, and the lighter shade is an open porch. That darker portion that you see here is an 8-foot addition, and then there's another 13-foot of addition of open porch. And at the second floor, then you can see again that line of the gable front is maintained. And then on the left, you can see you're looking at the porch roof down below. At the second floor, we are actually bringing that bay out, and you'll see that more in the elevations. The interior plan is reconfigured, but the exterior walls are maintained. And then at the rear, there is a 14-foot addition that's enclosed for the bedroom. And then beyond that, another 7-foot addition, which is an open porch. The third floor, currently, you'll see on the side elevations that this is a low roof, and then the gable roof forms in the front. We're retaining all of those gable roof forms at the front on the proposed, adding this space in the back for one additional space that can be used as a bedroom with a outdoor roof terrace. So at the front elevation, at the larger drawing, you can see here, that's the existing 6-foot porch, and then this portion is the part that comes out another 2 feet, projects 8 feet from the front wall. The front wall of the house here is the same as the front wall of the house here, and this projecting 6-foot bay serves both stories. Also over the front door, then a small, very, very simple canopy to provide some cover over the front door. And then Elizabeth mentioned that this window is being retained essentially at same location with a centered gable
Yeah.
in the gable end sheathed in fish scale metal shingles and a clapboard of a thermally modified wood material, which we'll show you later when we get to materials board. Side elevation, the existing random arrangement of windows, low roof at the back, but gable form at the front. We're retaining all of that gable form at the front and extending exactly the front gable, that same form back with a bit of a dormer on the side to give a little more room and light into that bedroom with a roof terrace on the back. So this is the line of the existing house, and then this is the enclosed portion of the addition, and then an open portion of the addition. At the front, then where the porch is, the 8-foot porch is being removed, there's the 6-foot line, there's the 8-foot line. We're coming out 6 feet with a 2-story bay addition. The windows on this side, we have some windows towards the front that can take advantage of an angled view out towards the street. We've eliminated some other windows here so that we're not looking into the neighbor's house. The neighboring house has a bunch of windows on the side. We've actually located these windows so that they intentionally are not directly opposite windows on the neighbor's house. Opposite side, similar addition. Here's the line of the existing house. This is the enclosed portion, and then this portion on this side of the house is actually the larger open portion. Up here, that is a solid wall. It's sort of a storage closet wall on the side of an open terrace. Its purpose is really to provide privacy to the second floor terrace off the master bedroom. And then at the rear of the house, the existing rear with very low slope roof, where here we are repeating that gable from the front of the house, adding a couple of small dormers on the side, which are permissible under zoning. And then here is open porch at the rear, open porch in the middle, and then these blocks that you see on each side are some small storage areas that provide some screening from the neighbor between neighboring properties and the rear terrace. A few views of the house with some color to give you an idea of what's happening. Here you can see the grass at the front. I'm sorry, actually, I'm going to ask Robert to remind me the name of what this grass is called.
Those are liriope. It's a
Thank you very
liriope or
much.
mundo grass.
So that we're not proposing a typical mowable front lawn at the front. Here is a view of the proposed street elevation, just existing neighbors. And again, importantly, the gable is retained, center gabled windows, and then each one of these building faces is in alignment, and then there are a variety of projections up and down the street as you move along the street. Right side, three-dimensional, where although the house is extended back, it is not the sidewall does not project any further than the existing sidewall, so that this gable again is existing, so that all the side yard height setback numbers remain unchanged, because we're not adding anything that is higher or taller or projects farther on the side than what exists.
Eric, while we're on these views, could you talk a little bit more about the, I guess, the use of that outdoor space and I guess the top right corner of this elevation, which really is kind of covering outdoor space, but designed, I want to say, cleverly to provide some additional privacy just between neighbors.
Right. So you can see here where from the master bedroom, there is an open terrace that is over the roof of the covered porch. But in order for that to be a more private space and to have some screening from neighboring properties, then there are some slender closets built on each side that enclose that space and give it a bit of privacy. Also in this view, then you can see the open back porch, rear door, and proposed garage with a green roof. There is currently a fence along this property line. So the air conditioning units are proposed to be slotted. We have 5 feet between the garage and that property line, and the proposal would be to mount the air conditioning units in that space. Again, this is a gray clapboard material. This portion is stucco, and then again the gray clapboard. A view of the left side, metal roof that is a gray with a little bit of bronze color in it. And then a view directly from overhead showing what's happening with the site plan. Liriope here, new planting along this edge, and then a paved area here to get into the garage, and then one parking spot slid in next to it, and then a relatively minor amount of paver in between other grassed area. Exterior materials. This is the gable front material at the attic level. Exterior siding is a thermally modified wood, which means that it doesn't rot, but it really is wood, and it looks like clapboard. Exterior stucco, a very simple gray color. Green roof is a system that uses these trays and a kind of shrubbery green material that doesn't grow tall like grass. It's sort of, it generally gets trimmed once a year, but it's generally about 8 inches above the height of the roof, no more than that. And then exterior windows that bring in a little bit more contemporary, slightly industrial feel.
Sorry, Gloria, I couldn't find anything like that.
Apologies, something you said seemed to have triggered Siri to want to answer a question there. On this next slide, we have the bulk variances, but I'd like Eric and I to kind of go through these because we've essentially reduced them down from the prior proposal to only what is really required by using the existing home. So for example, we are respecting the existing condition of the side yard setback now. The larger setback, we are respecting that line and actually using it in just modifying the home. As Mr. Bridger said, we are not changing the height to setback ratios from the existing impervious coverage. We are the prior proposal had a small, had a modest increase, but we are actually proposing a decrease to remove the variance condition. And that, by the way, it includes the neighbor to the right side at 9 Madison has, I guess we'll call a shared driveway, but it's a driveway that kind of comes onto onto 11 Madison. But as you saw, access to 11 Madison is from the rear, so we're kind of encumbered by that driveway still, and that represents a good portion of the coverage. But even with maintaining that, we were able to make sure they can park and reduce our coverage. And as Mr. Holterman said, while we do need a variance for the front yard setback, this is I'm not going to say a quirk of the ordinance, but we are actually pulling back 2 feet from the line of the existing porch, but because of the way the enclosed bay that we're using now is, I think, considered, it doesn't have the same treatment under the code. So while we are 2 feet further away from the street, we still do need a variance for that. And we are still respecting the distance between buildings. And Eric, if again, if you could talk a little bit, I know it came up at HPC, but a lot of care went into designing the window locations, the dormer locations, and those side, whether you want to call them closets or parapet walls or screening, to kind of cleverly use outdoor space and make sure that neighbors, in very closely knit, tight neighborhoods are able to, I want to say interact, but be, screened from each other.
Sure. I'll go back to this view just to say that, it's a long skinny lot and the openness of the design is on the front with the new 2-story bay window, which is very glassy and very open and brings a lot of light because that's really a great place to bring light into the house. And then also back with the open porches, another place that it really makes sense to be quite open because of the configuration of the lot. The side elevations, I'll tell you honestly, if this was a house sort of out in the middle of a field somewhere, we wouldn't design a side elevation that looks like this. We would certainly add more fenestration, but out of respect to the neighbors and out of care between two houses, sort of not staring one into the other, we've really been very careful to cut back on the fenestration on the side and design the house so that it's getting its light more from the front and the back.
And while we reduced the floor area from the prior proposal, could you do a quick summary of where that floor area is? I know some of it is in fact outdoor space here, but it consists of the, as you show, the addition of the second floor bedroom, and then this shaded area on the first floor, which maybe it allows for a bathroom and a mudroom.
Right. So at the first floor here, then I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but the darker area is the actual floor area that's added. But then most of the area that's added here is exterior covered porch on this floor, and at the next floor, then this dimension is 14. It's not it's not generous. It's a fairly compact room, 14 feet across for that enclosed addition at the second floor, again with open area behind it. And then at the third floor, again, area added on, but it's underneath that gable roof that continues the line of the gable roof, so that it has quite a sharp drop off on both sides, where we've added a couple of dormers tucked in just to give a little more headroom, which works with the zoning, but we're still being very conscious to not affect the height setback ratio and to keep the impact of the side elevation as low as possible.
Thanks, Eric. So just continuing on then with we summarized the variances, but we'll get back to the street here. Again, it is this particular zone is, I don't know if this is a legal standard, but comically non-conforming for the neighborhood. The lot widths and lot areas are extremely both inconsistent and out of whack for what the zoning is supposed to be. Even with proportional FAR, a home that could be built here is not inappropriately small, but certainly not in line with many of the homes on the street. We did a floor area review, and even assuming that the tax records were correct about attic space, and we know perhaps they're not, we found floor areas ranging from the high side 87%, and many homes, including the two across the street, that are larger than the proposed at 3,015 feet at 12 Madison and 2,620 square feet at 14. And the goal for us, and we believe HPC, was to design something that could fit the needs, but also fit the neighborhood. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily mean that it conforms to floor area, but we come back with a much smaller, by several hundred square feet, proposal, and one that tucks and hides much of that needed space into the existing footprint and floor plan and attic design of the house that was so important to maintaining that streetscape. In summary, you do have to show and be convinced that this property will accommodate any problems associated with this floor area. But our submission is that the design that maintains the streetscape does that. And when you look at the streetscape as we have, not just from a visual perspective of massing and design, but in terms of the floor areas of other properties on the block in this, again, I'll say comically undersized neighborhood, as well as the prevailing size of homes, which are in the 25 to 3,000 square foot range commonly on this street, that this house fits in, notwithstanding the unusually small lot size. If we go to the next slide. Oh, thank you. Obviously, we'll accept any questions that the board has, and this has been I'll say a collaborative and long process. So we certainly want to hear your feedback. I hope those of you who were here last time, I'm not asking you to remember specifically, but remember and appreciate the efforts made as kind of verified and worked with HPC to revise this project considerably into something that we hope you agree fits into the neighborhood.
Okay. Board members, any questions of Mr. Halterman? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
About the green roof at the garage. Is it correct? I don't know, maybe this is a Derek question, that the green roof doesn't count at all towards impervious coverage? I mean, the whole footprint of the garage, it seems, is not counting at all towards impervious coverage.
According to the zoning, we get a credit for the garage in a rear yard, but the green roof doesn't. I should say we get a credit from part of the garage, but the green roof does not count as pervious in any way. It doesn't give us any additional advantage. It's simply voluntary, and also because from their second floor balcony, they're looking out at that roof. Much nicer to look at a green roof, and it does have environmental benefits in addition.
Right. So I'm just wondering, because I see it's listed as a credit. So it just gets zeroed out. The garage gets zeroed out.
The garage is actually 282 square feet, and the actual size of the garage, and the Princeton zoning, when a garage is less than 15 feet tall and behind the rear wall of the house, zoning, there's a 200 square foot zoning credit for the garage, whether it has a green roof or not.
From FAR.
From FAR.
Okay, so I don't know, and maybe, am I not following something? I thought I was looking at the impervious coverage calculation, and
Excuse me, it does, without the green roof, they're given a credit for the garage from impervious, regardless of the green roof. If it's less than 300 square feet, less than 15 foot.
oh,
height,
okay,
and-
got it. Okay, now I understand. All right, sorry.
Yeah, and the green roof is on top of that, and not really
Okay.
counted towards the figures.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions of the applicant or Mr. Halterman? Okay.
I have a quick question. Is gathering a new term for a family room?
Yes.
Thank you. I've never seen that before.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, what's next?
Thank you. Well, happy to, I'll just reserve to summarize again, but that's our our presentation tonight.
Okay. All right, board members, any questions before we go to public comment? Okay, so I'll open this up to the public. Claudia, has anyone indicated they'd like to comment?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay. Mr. Halterman, do you want to take your screen down, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Claudia?
Yes, I have a. I got Tom, 2 Toms and Rebecca.
Ms. Cox, are you both going to testify?
Yes, my name's John McCory. I'm Rebecca's husband,
All
and
right.
Rebecca and I are owners of 9 Madison.
All righty, we were just going to swear you in now. If you both raise your right hand. Do you both swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
We do.
We do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Kennedy earlier said something about the driveway that concerns me. The driveway of 9 Madison, our property, is fully owned by us. And I would just want some clarification on that. Was Mr. Kennedy saying something other than that?
Sure, and I've been texting clarifications or been texted clarifications on that. What I mean by that is that there is paved area that matches your driveway on the side of the on our side of the property line, and there's no intention or change to that proposed as part of the project.
So the driveway is owned by us.
The part of anything that's on your side of the property line is certainly owned by you. And to the extent there is pavement on the side of the driveway, or on the side of the property line, or walkway on our side, we have no intention of changing that.
Well, we're looking at the survey that you presented under existing streetscape front projections, and it seems to indicate that our driveway is not on your property. So that's why we're asking this question.
No, that is correct. Your driveway is not on this property. It is not at all on 11 Madison.
Okay.
Apologies for the confusion.
Thank you. I had something else to ask, to add that Ms. Kim of the Housing Preservation Commission asked me to add, which is about the concern for flooding in our neighborhood. You may not be aware, but within the last 10 years, we've actually had 7 inches of rain within a 24-hour period. And we've also had other heavy rainfalls, which exceed the typical rainfall, which is, I guess, about an inch in 24 hours. And it has caused great problems for both houses on either side of 11 Madison, plus 2 that are on the other side of our house. That would be 7 Madison and 5. And they've actually flooded so badly in the past, at least 3 times, that their entire basements have filled up. And that means that the windows have been blown out and the water's run in until it's level with the ground outside. So we've barely escaped having our entire basement flooded the same way. And one of the things that has helped is that the property at 11 slopes down towards the back, and any rain that actually comes from 5 and 7 through 9, which is our house, will end up accidentally flowing into 11 and collecting in the parking pad at the back of their house. And the current owners have been lucky enough not to experience this yet. But judging from the plans that I can tell, the property will be somewhat leveled off. And I'm very concerned that there will be no way for any of the excess runoff that comes from wherever in the surrounding properties. There'll be nowhere for that to go. And currently the property at 11 Madison does have downspouts and rain gutters surrounding it. And the entire front of that house, as with our house, is attached to the town storm sewer under Madison Street. The back of our property, we have a grate at the foot of our driveway to catch runoff. And we also have a grate in our backyard that's a pre-existing long time feed to the storm sewer that runs along the backs of our properties. What has happened in the past is our neighbors at 7, after they actually rebuilt their house and they put in a new basement, they still experience flooding. And they actually, after they finished their construction and regrew the grass and made everything really nice, they finished construction, I guess, in 2020. They dug up their entire property all the way to the front of their driveway, all the way back to their garage and all the way around the side, and put in a new drainage system with 6-inch pipe, which is very large for regular home drainage, and reattached to the storm sewer in the back. And I don't think they're here to comment on that, but I just wanted to say that I'm pretty concerned that with a standing seam roof and the construction that's been outlined, there's actually no way that this property will be able to take care of the rain that's going to land on it without it flowing into the neighbor's property, especially if the backyard is built up, and it looks like it will be increased by a foot or 2. It's just hard to tell because we don't have any elevation maps that we could look at. And the other thing I'd like to say is that we do appreciate that the neighbors have made a slightly more attractive house from the first iteration, but it's going to be a monolith from our yard. And because of the short notice for this meeting, we were unable to present any pictures to show you the blank wall that we will be looking at all the way across our backyard. And I had understood that the zoning board is very concerned about the extensions that people put on their backs of their properties so that everyone in the neighborhood is able to enjoy some green space. And with the extension, especially on the second floor deck, which is where people would normally put hedges if they wanted privacy, and the garage, which will stick, I don't know, about 8 feet up above our 6-foot fence, we'll be able to see maybe a gap of 10 feet between the end of their property and the beginning of their garage, because our garage, which you can't see on these things, is actually in the back of our yard against the back property line. So that's it, flooding, and we're going to be looking at a big wall.
Thank you. We'll try to address some of those things if, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like us to now, or wait till the other comments. So we're happy to add a few comments now.
It's up to you. Why don't you deal with it now?
All right. I understand that the downspouts do now go into the city system in the front, and the back ones towards the rear. Certainly, the applicant will work with the town to make sure that works. We are, as part of this proposal, actually removing coverage, so that should, while they haven't been owners long enough to have experienced that, they haven't yet experienced that flooding, but we'll certainly work to make sure that that can be alleviated as much as possible. And that could include, if the town will permit it, connecting into the town's system if that's appropriate. Hopefully that and the removal of coverage, we went, currently it's a variance condition on 11 Madison. We're reducing coverage to bring it below the requirements, which should hopefully help as well. Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about the whether it's you call it articulation or the side screening? I suppose it's it's two sides of a coin. On one hand, it's it's blocking or providing screening, and on the other hand, it is in itself something to look at. Eric, you want to talk about that a bit?
Well, yeah, exactly. The intent is to provide some privacy screening, really both ways, and from both sides of the property, so that open area from the master bedroom is sort of recessed between those, which again are no higher than the existing plate of the house, although it's extended farther back. So, I mean, while you're correct that there will be a bit more walling from your rear yard, the area sort of between the front of your garage and the back of your house, we're not increasing the height from what is already existing on the house, and the materials will carry through, and we've designed it in a way that we think that it won't have windows staring down on you, and to provide privacy into your yard from this house.
I have a question. Will again, we didn't see any grading either. Will any water be directed to adjacent properties? In other words, is the grade at this property higher than the adjacent properties?
We haven't been.
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I should have let you speak. I don't believe we've done that analysis yet, but that is the requirement in the municipality, not to exasperate that condition. So it's certainly something we'd have to comply with in doing our compliance plans. Eric, do you have anything more current or exacting than that?
Only to say that, again, we've reduced the coverage and we're not looking to make any changes in where the water runs.
To the existing drainage situation?
Right, right.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Cox, any other questions? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I missed it. It's not on the screen.
That's John. That's my husband, John.
Okay.
I just really don't understand the garage. The garage does not count as impermeable lot coverage. Is that what I understood from the discussion?
Perhaps I'll let, you'll probably believe it more from the zoning officer, but yes, there's a, in the part of the neighborhood character ordinance, as part of incentivizing rear garages, they neither count towards lot coverage or floor area. That's something kind of in common with all rear garages now. Derek, did I get close to that? Correct?
You are correct. It's exempt from zoning calculations. It's not exempt from engineering calculations. So I added those two items back in, and it still doesn't increase the impervious coverage over 400 square feet of the existing, which would trigger an actual formal stormwater management plan. So,
well, I would just like to ask the engineering department to consider requiring that our neighbors put in a drain and connect their rear downspouts to the town stormwater system.
I will have to check with the engineer, see if that's acceptable.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions right now? Okay, Claudia, any other people like to speak? Wait one sec, please. Claudia, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I see two other names I don't recognize. How many people want to speak?
I only have two more.
Okay, pick one.
Mr. Spenshade? Did I say that right?
That's close enough.
Okay.
Sir, we just need your address and then we'll swear you in.
Sure. It's number 10
on Willow Street.
Alrighty, and you'd raise your right hand. You swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful.
I do.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your time. My name is Tom Espenshade, and my wife and I live on Willow Street in Princeton. We've lived in the same place on Willow Street for more than 34 years. I'd like to address the issue of access from Willow Street, which is something that has been mentioned twice already tonight. Willow Street is a private street, and that means that owners of the Hillier townhomes on the north side of Willow Street own the street. We pay taxes on it, and we have the responsibility for its upkeep and the repair. Willow Street is also a cul-de-sac, and it ends with a gate that opens into a parking area in the backyard of 11 Madison. By custom, occupants of 11 Madison have been able to use Willow Street and that gate for the purpose of parking their personal passenger vehicles only in the back of 11 Madison. But commercial vehicles, construction vehicles, and other vehicles servicing 11 Madison may not use that entrance, nor may they park on Willow Street. Now, the plans that the board is being asked to approve tonight seem to involve a lot of construction, not only to the existing structure, but then there's a new structure, a new garage plan behind that. So my question is, how do the owners of 11 Madison plan to pull this off if they can't use Willow Street as a cut through?
Thank you. Frank, if you want to, or excuse me, Robert, if you want to address that, I know you've been both in contact and been kind of voluntarily paying dues to help out with the maintenance of the street, and I believe are able to comply with that request. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Hi, Tom. I'm sorry. I never met you. I met your wife. My wife and I spoke to her the other night for quite some time. And yes, you're correct, Ryan. We have been paying voluntarily dues or any assistance that we can to Willow Street, and we very much appreciate being able to access our driveway coming down Willow Street. Regarding any construction vehicles, if we cannot use, and I totally understand how you own that portion of the street for each of your townhomes. If we can't use that, what we'll be forced to do is have to come in from Madison and literally have people carry stuff by hand on the sides of our property into the back for any storage or anything of that means. We did offer and continue to offer that if we can just simply have use of just delivery only, not ongoing construction, not any heavy equipment or anything like that. Just delivery of, say, sheetrock, of things of that nature onto the back of our property, that would be extremely helpful. And importantly, we would either put up some kind of a I don't know if you want to call it a performance bond or anything that any damage to the street we would take care of. And certainly if there's any dirt or debris that was left by any just delivery trucks, we would immediately have someone out there, via our general contractor to take care of that. So we are certainly willing to, again, look to work with our Willow Street, neighbors to make that happen. But if worst case, they'll have to carry it in on the sides of the property, which would be, a true hardship. But if that's what we have to do, we will. But we would very much like the, cooperation of the Willow Street Association. And we would be willing to, again, pay for any damages and make sure that any debris at all would be cleaned up immediately.
So I'll just to summarize, certainly understand the restrictions, and to extend anything beyond that is needed, it would be worked out with them and with their permission.
Mr. Espen Shade, do you have a response to that?
Well, only that Willow Street is our private driveway. The residents on Willow Street, because we own the street, it's our private driveway. So the construction vehicles coming down during the construction phase of the project would be essentially driving through our front yard. I'm sure that nobody would like construction vehicles driving through their front yards. The other thing I would say is that I'm not in a position to speak for all the members, all the residents on Willow Street. I'm just raising a prospective issue. We don't mind, and it's, as I say, it's been a long-standing custom that occupants of 11 Madison have been able to use the street and access that gate in the backyard of 11 Madison for parking their personal passenger vehicles. But construction vehicles on the street where there are small children, young children, it's a narrow street. There is already other parking by residents on the street, is just, in my opinion, not speaking for other members, would be an undue hardship.
And I'm sorry if I just want to clarify one thing, Tom, and that is that there would be no, and we make sure of this, we would have it in writing with our general contractor that there would be absolutely no parking whatsoever of any construction vehicles at any time on Willow Street. And the only thing when we're talking about construction vehicles, it's not really construction vehicles, it's simply a delivery truck or two. It's not anything that would be ongoing, and it would not be on a regular basis. It's simply to deliver supplies, and that's it. And nothing beyond that.
This does not sound like a personal passenger vehicle to me.
Correct. I mean, it wouldn't be because they would be delivering supplies. But again, it would be infrequent and not parked on Willow Street whatsoever. And any damage or any dirt, we would be responsible for. But again, we would be certainly willing to have a meeting with the Willow Street Association and neighbors to work out something that would be amenable to everyone.
And we understand that if something is not able to be worked out, then we have the restrictions that are on the
Correct.
on this now.
Yeah.
Correct.
I would only just make one other comment, which is that there are any number of homes that are being renovated in Princeton where there is no access to the backyard, and they are having to carry dirt around the sides of their homes in wheelbarrows to get it out to the front of their property. There's one down on Moore Street right now that's in exactly that circumstance. So you would not be unique by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
Chairman, Steve?
Yes.
I guess to make sure that Tom, and hello, Tom, that he understands that zoning approval does not supersede the homeowners that control, the street. They don't, it doesn't come with a right, the zoning.
Correct.
Just
that is-
clarify that for him.
No,
We're not
that's,
involved.
yeah, because this is a private street. It's not a public street, it's private. So this is between the owners of that street and the applicants. As far as the town goes, I don't think there's a basis on which the owners of Willow Street could be compelled to allow construction deliveries or vehicular access for construction vehicles. And I'm assuming, Derek, that if it has to come down Madison, then the applicants would comply with whatever protocol engineering normally imposes on someone who's doing a significant renovation to their home. Is that correct?
Exactly. Oh,
Okay.
good. Yeah, they would have to, in my opinion, they would have the owners of 11 would have to provide access to the back of their property through their property if they were not allowed to use the adjacent rear access, but it's not our issue.
No,
Not-
I'm gonna assume the applicant's taken that into account.
Absolutely. And
You know,
this,
they're prepared to deal with that. They came in, they're seeking approvals and they understand that they may not have access to use.
that is 100% correct. It was something we knew and discussed before this evening. There's always hope, but we understand that that is a right of those owners. And if it doesn't, it's not something that's agreeable to them, we certainly understand.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Espenshade, anything else?
No, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Claudia, can you let in another person, please?
There's another Tom Regan. Can you?
Yeah,
I'm
hi.
sorry.
Hi, everybody. Oop.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Reagan, we just need your address and then we'll swear you in.
Sure, I'm at 13 Madison Street.
All right, and if you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
So hi, everybody. My name's Tom Reagan, and I've lived at 13 Madison Street for the last 23 years. And I own it, co-own it with my wife, Inga. And I have had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Frank, and I have nothing but positive things to say about him as a neighbor. I'm curious as to why he would think I no longer live there. I'm kind of here.
Haven't seen you in weeks.
I'm here every day, all day.
All right.
Robert.
Glad to hear it.
You see the air conditioning on and the trash being taken out and the lights
All right.
turned on and off, and there's a proof of life adequate, I hope.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely appreciative of the changes that have been made to the design. Just to clarify, I have spoken with Robert about the parking, which is my main issue. But I have not had the pleasure of speaking with him about the design, either the original design or the redesign. I would have appreciated that because I do have some questions. But my main concern is going to be with the parking, because we, along with number 9, are kind of directly butted up against each other with when it comes to parking. But I guess I'll get to that in just a second. Other people, Rebecca has brought up the drainage, and that seems to be a big issue with the board here. That does concern me, but for a different reason than I think it concerns everybody else. What we have right now is pavers in between number 11 and number 13, and that's where we park our car, and sometimes 2 cars. And the proposal is to dig up the proportion of the driveway, which I think is probably 20% of the driveway, just in ballpark, is owned by number 11, and 80% is owned by us, which is, where we park our cars. And they're going to dig that up and put in dirt, which I guess will help with the drainage. But there's going to be some plants there, which, or I guess, are going to be low enough. The driveway is narrow enough that we need to, when the passenger opens the car door, they're going to sweep into that foliage. So if it's grass, I guess that's okay. I'm just concerned that future people who live there might plant something that wasn't quite so conducive to a car door opening up, and it would become a real hardship if we couldn't park there. So that's my main concern. The drainage is also a concern because we do get our basement flooded, especially during the hurricanes that we've had the last couple of months, Sandy and Irma, I believe. But the one place where the water doesn't come in is the driveway, because there's pavers there and it runs down. I'm worried that this dirt that's going to be put in there, unless it's really adequately drained, would actually increase the the chance of our driveway, or of our basement flooding. So, the water kind of gets down between these houses, and the foundations are stone, and there's absolutely, they're completely impervious, pervious to water. And as I say, that's the one place in our basement where water never comes in, is the driveway there. And I also have a concern about the height of the property too. I guess some of the people that have commented tonight have made me think about that even more than I already have. My wife's not here; she has to work, but she has expressed concern about the lighting that comes into our house, because number 11 is to our south, and so if the house is raised up and there's more square footage on the third floor, it's going to make our property that much darker, and that's kind of an issue. I don't know if there's anything to be done about that. And the same thing would be true with the back. If the back is extended, it's the wall that we're kind of be looking at all the way up and down the house, and including from our backyard. But again, the main thing is the driveway. It's a real worry for us that if we couldn't continue to park cars there, that it would be quite a hardship. So I've talked with Mr. Frank about that, and I think we're going to be able to work that out. If there was some way to keep just the pavers there, that would certainly be my preference. I think that it seems the dirt part and the plant part and the grass is put in there to help with the overall permeable ratio. That seems to be what the main function for it, but it's coming at a cost to us, and both with our access to our driveway and potentially the flooding. So those are my concerns, and I think.
Just real quick to comment on that, the Franks would be happy to continue to work with their neighbor, and particularly to make sure that the plantings are appropriate and not interfering with his use of his driveway. Our belief preliminarily is that the removal of the hard surfaces there will be a benefit from a stormwater perspective. To the extent it's not, it probably will be the negative to 11 Madison, because it's the strip that's so close to their basement, in which case we'll be incentivized to make sure that gets fixed and is tied into the town's storm system. The leaders, I believe, on the front of that, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, are existing connections to the town's stormwater system, and that could be tied in there as well. So to the extent that it does cause something negative, it'll be probably more negative for us, and we'll be incentivized to make sure that gets fixed. And on the plantings, they're perfectly comfortable working with you, making sure the height is appropriate, so it doesn't their concern is on the stormwater side to make sure that it works, and rather than the height of something that might interfere with you, and they're happy to make sure that works.
If somebody else moves into the house, what's to keep them from planting something that's a tree or something like that? Or
I guess it would be a condition of the approval potentially that would run with the land, and then secondarily, it is a narrow place. Eric, again, you're not our landscape person necessarily, but it is a very narrow spot. It's pretty limited in the type or size of thing that could actually survive and work there.
Exactly. I mean, it really is too narrow a place for any kind of root structure. So anything that's going to be planted there is going to be of a more ground cover type variety.
And what if somebody moved in that was a gardener and wanted to plant flowers there, and I'm taking my groceries out one day and crush one of their flowers, and I'm worried about that kind of thing. I don't know if that's a zoning thing, but the way it is now, the pavers are don't have that issue. there's no guarantee. I'm sure Mr. Frank and Mindy will be wonderful neighbors. They certainly have been so far. But there's no telling the next people that move in what they might do with that dirt along the side there. And one of the pictures, by the way, of showing the streetscape with the cars parked in between the two, I think it's a drawing, is a little misleading because it doesn't show the foliage that's going to now be present on the left-hand side of number 11. So I just want to point that out. It is going to make, it's already narrow and it's going to make it even more narrow. So I do have a concern about that, but yeah.
Mr. Kennedy, just a quick question. Is there going to be any testimony about landscaping? Or is Mr. Holterman prepared to speak to the type of landscaping that the applicants propose?
I can maybe address, unless Eric, you want to, I could address some of the plans.
No, go ahead, Robert.
Going to Eric. Okay. Along the side, and Tom, I definitely hear what you're saying. And again, we've had conversations, and both Mindy and I are very sensitive to making sure that, again, you can continue to obviously park there on your part, as well as opening up the door on our part, and we're totally fine with that. But regarding specifically to the plants that we're thinking about along that left-hand side there, it's probably going to be a pink heather. And heather, I'm not sure how familiar you are with it or not. It's either going to be a pink heather, which is no more than approximately 10 inches high or so, and it's more of an evergreen. And if it's not that, it's going to be a Mundo grass or a liriope or something of that nature, which is even lower still. So again, we're looking for something that's going to be an evergreen, that's low and slow growing, and doesn't exceed that height. And at the same point, just from an aesthetic standpoint, looking at it from the front of the house, that we're helping to frame our house a little bit, but certainly being cognizant of our neighbors and you parking there. So we'd be obviously we questions about it, and we can have more discussions about that as well. So that's what we have planned for the left-hand side.
Yeah, no, I have no issues with your goodwill. It's the fact that, I've been here 23 years and I've seen neighbors come and go, dozens and dozens of them. And if you don't live here in 2 years or 5 years and somebody else does, they may make a different choice in terms of their foliage. And that's my biggest concern. So I don't know if that's a zoning thing. I don't know if there's anything to be done about that, but
I think, as somebody may mention, they can be conditions to the approval that the board gives.
okay, yeah, I would appreciate it. I think that my main condition is hopeful condition would be that the height of the foliage, and that it would always be not so stiff that you couldn't open a door, and that it wouldn't be, decorative flowers or something like that, where grass is fine. But, if somebody put in decorative flowers and they were, persnickety about that kind of stuff, it's kind of hard to get in and out of the passenger seat without damaging the flowers. And you could see having potential future problems with a hypothetical future neighbor. So
I think we'd be agreeable to a condition like that, and trust Ms. Casey can draft something up that should satisfy the board and you, that future owners would also carry on the good neighbor vibes of the Franks should they move on. So that good thoughts there, and we're happy to work with you on that.
And they'd be compelled to do that, or they would just be
conditions?
If it's a condition, yeah.
Okay.
It would, yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Claudia, are there any others that would like to speak?
There are no more hands.
Okay. All right. Mr. Reagan, have you completed your questions?
Yeah, I think so. I think my other concerns were mostly shared by the Coxes. and, or by Rebecca and John.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about the lighting. We're going to be more affected by the lighting because we're on the this, I guess, the south side. So most of our light comes from over the top of that house, and it's going to be significantly reduced. So, but yeah, but other than that, I think that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, that will conclude the public portion of the hearing. Mr. Kennedy, would you like to say anything before we go into executive session?
Sure. Again, I hope tonight shows a demonstration of an applicant who's taken the comments of this board and several HPC hearings in an area that's not actually in a district, but a proposed district. So they were technically courtesy hearings, but that's important to us and to them. And we implemented and ultimately got their support, something that took a lot of work, revamping the team, drastically changing the project in a way that we hope is the board agrees is appropriate for the street and the neighborhood. You heard a bit about the sizes of homes and some of the other floor areas on the street and how this is certainly one that doesn't that is designed in a way to not just mitigate, but really not have any negative impacts beyond the ones that any narrow lot home in this neighborhood have. There are, under the Coventry Square case, I do remind you, we do need 5 votes if you're so inclined to approve this evening. We've removed as many of the variances as frankly we could, including impervious coverage, and by keeping the existing building, the existing roof lines, the existing setbacks, we were able to hide as much of this addition and expansion to bring it into a size that's appropriate to the street, but while still hiding most of it inside the existing structure. And that took a lot of work, and we're really pleased with Eric Holterman's ability to hear those comments and to do that. The conditions that we were agreeable here to tonight with some of the issues that the neighbors brought up, particularly with Willow Street and 13 Madison. This is an applicant that wants to and is comfortable working with those neighbors and adhering to those types of conditions. We hope that you agree that the work that went into this and the negative impacts that were removed essentially in the version that HPC is endorsed meet your satisfaction and are appropriate for this neighborhood. And thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Okay, board members, let's discuss this. Comments, please.
Well, I would congratulate them for coming back with a design that none of the neighbors have complained about in terms of how it looks. And I think they came back very strongly from the last meeting and really tried to meet what the neighbors were talking about. And I for one would approve this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Stephen.
Incidentally, Jim, can I just add one other thing?
Sure.
I don't like the idea of putting in some kind of vegetation regulation on this. I mean, who knows what's going to happen 10 years down the road and all that sort of stuff. And that's between neighbors, if you ask me, not a regulation. That's it, Jim.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I agree. I think that that you've come back. Your architect has done a nice job coming back. I think it is a nice looking building. I think it fits in quite nicely to to the neighborhood. And I think that you've done a lot of work to try and address your neighbors' issues. And I think that you've really addressed them quite nicely. So I'd be in favor of moving forward with it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't quite understand the principle behind restricting what they can plant, because that's, we're providing for somebody else's door to swing over their property by imposing a forward restriction on what they can do. I'm just not following the principle behind that. I mean, it's a courtesy. I understand that, but I'm not in favor of that restriction either.
I suppose one way the board could look at it is that you haven't been given any landscaping information for the project. I'm not saying the applicant has to, but certainly many applicants have come in and said, here's what I intend to do. So this applicant has not. So you have one neighbor who has raised a concern.
Right.
The
I mean,
applicant-
wouldn't they, are in that neighborhood, are they allowed to put a fence right up to a property line?
Sure. Why, I don't believe they wouldn't be allowed to. Derek?
That's true.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's, I just can't reconcile being able to do that and then that they need to have some restriction on the planting. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, that's a tight-knit neighborhood. Your houses are close together. I think that you seem to have shown that you're looking to be a good neighbor, and you've gone above and beyond to do that. So yeah, I don't think that planting restriction really makes sense either.
I think the application they've put in a lot of work. It's been greatly improved. Very sensitive to the neighborhood, pretty much, especially the front facade and how the whole addition was added. If there's a lot that's exceptionally narrow, this is one of them. And I don't know, and the comment also about the zoning, whether it's comically sort of inaccurate for reality. I know it is somewhere around that, because it is so different from reality. So we work within those parameters. I hope you heard a couple comments about drainage. I hope that either is not a big thing, especially the ponding that might be in the rear outside the gate. I'm not sure that you contribute that much to it. I don't know how you would present, but I don't know if the architect took any, was aware of that. And if anything can be done, hopefully you will. I think it's a good application with what you had to work with and the comments you had received before. And I did not hear the neighbors say, don't do it.
I actually think the design was greatly improved from the original scheme, and I think it addresses, I think, the major concerns we have. I know Jim was concerned about the floor area ratio initially, and that's been reduced. So, okay.
And I think one other comment, because I had my concerns about the addition, and that's why I asked about if the neighbors had talked to you. It is within, you meet the rear yard setback. So it's not like we could object to that. And it really has to do with side yard setbacks. And I support those variances.
Thank you.
Okay,
I wanted
any
to
other
say-
comments, or would someone like to make a Oh, Eve, go ahead,
I
please.
wanted to say one other thing, which is that, I mean, I don't live in the neighborhood, so I'm not required to know it, but, it sounded like that question, which was, what do you plan to do if you can't use that, drive of, Willow Street, which is a private drive? Sounded like that could be a real, it didn't sound like the solution necessarily could end up being, or will ultimately end up being, well, you'll be able to work something out and be able to use it. So that might be great, but I could see a lot of trucks coming in and you wouldn't really be able to control. It's not the same as a neighbor who's gonna, like, I know where to find you, somebody who's dropping stuff off might not be as careful. So that seemed like an important thing that was brought up. I don't think it's anything that we have anything to say about here, would add a condition. I can't think of what it would be, but it just sounded like an important thing that was brought up. And it might, like I say, it might be, it won't work out that you can use it, and you might have to be carrying things back there, which is going to be a pain. And it seems like it would be, might be a real hardship, but you might not be able to do that. That's what I picked up. So I
Well,
don't think we can, I don't think it's our, and any more than I don't think that the height of plants is something that I've certainly never heard us make a condition about that. So.
well, I would agree. The planting, I don't think we can regulate at all. I think that has to be a discussion between neighbors. With regard to the rear access, they do have, although minimal, a side yard on the left side as you face the house that I believe you can get past. So although it would present a construction difficulty, it would not completely rule out construction in the back. So that's, for the Franks to work out.
Steve, before there's a motion, I just had two questions. One, in the past, the board has imposed, I guess we call it a lighting standard to say, the source of the light and no spillage. I don't know if that's helpful here.
Well, I don't know. That's, as Mr. Floyd pointed out, that's not a municipal requirement. It's something that previously our former chairman brought up all the time. So I don't know if, and I'm not sure it's exterior lighting that's the concern.
And you may be right. I just wanted to bring that up. And my other, for clarification, I thought I heard Mr. Kennedy say, or Mr. Holterman, that the applicant was going to continue to maintain this current connection they have. Currently, gutters are connected. Is that right? Did I hear it right, to drain into? Underneath Madison Street. Did I hear that correctly, that the applicant's going to continue to do that? I see.
Yes,
Mr.
Brian, do you want to
Holtman's
address it, or?
nodding his head.
I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I'm looking back at the text, Robert, just to make sure I got it.
Yeah.
Before I repeat it.
I can address it. Yes, we would be looking to, we actually put a scope. We hired someone to put a scope down there to figure out where there's two cleanouts that are currently on the left and right side of the current front patch of dirt that's there right now, or mulch. And we had a scope put on both of those, and those are both, it leads from the house to the, there's a drain or a sewer line that runs, not a sewer line, but a water line that runs underneath, I believe, the sidewalk, going all the way down Madison. And that's what we would, and that's what's there currently, and we would connect right into that. So we're not looking to modify that or do anything different from that.
Okay. And Mr. Bridger, is that helpful if that is a condition, or is this not a concern, you think, for the town?
I think the engineer would have to okay that situation, land use engineer. So you can make it a condition subject to review and approval
Okay.
by the land use engineer.
All right.
but
Okay.
Okay, so if
Can I
someone
just
would,
make one other comment, just
Sure.
about that facade that faces, I don't remember which house number that was, but the Cox family house. I would encourage taking another look at some additional articulation on that side. It does have, it is a long blank facade. If there's anything that can be done to add some articulation on that side, it would be a positive thing.
okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Thank you. Do we have a
Second.
Just, again, just for clarification, so is that subject to the HPC recommendations? I believe Ms. Kim said there were 2 recommendations.
Well, I think that, yeah, one was the stormwater, which was covered. And let me see what the other one was. And the other
Was
was,
repurposing.
oh no, that was the other
That was a
application.
prior application. I don't believe they had.
That was a
any-
prior application. That
Okay.
wasn't this application.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, and then is a condition, as we just discussed, this continued connection of the gutters into the underground street system, subject to the review and approval of the municipal engineer.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. Any discussion of the motion before we vote? Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Chen,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Mr. Davich,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes,
Thank you.
you did a very nice job with the house, and I think it'll be an asset to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. and
much.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Yes, much appreciated. And Eric, you did a great job. We love the design, so thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, I guess unless there are anything anybody wants to discuss, we're adjourned.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
All right, guys.
Good night.
Hope to see you in person sometime soon. Be nice.
Soon.
Yeah.
Cheers.
See you, James.
Take care.